Oh. Alright, let's try this again.
What the hell is that?
There's some static for a moment, but it's gone. It's a waterfall, Jay.
No, I still hear it.
It's the background waterfall that Macho has.
Not me. Is it me?
G. I don't know. It's not like it's not consistent. It's just like here and there. Oh, and there it is.
Are you making a milkshake, G?
Me? Oh no, I'm typing. I'm typing.
Let me see real quick. All right, we're live, so Walt, can you check sound real quick just to make sure we're good?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
I won't type.
set this. Damn man, I wanted to start at 10:30, but there you go.
And that's how it starts. Are you making a milkshake, Gene?
That's a good start.
It is our mission as apothecaries to ensure that everyone lives long
It's
enough
playing the
for
Octopath
their
video.
hopes to become reality, even if it
That's
costs
the old
us
one. That's the old one.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there's a 4-minute video up on the channel.
Yeah, no, I gotta delete it. Just give me a second.
You're good. You're good.
Right now, I'm just trying to get this first live stream
video.
there.
It sounds good.
That's the old one. That's the old one.
Okay. Sounds fantastical. Oh yeah, there's a 4-minute video.
Okay, cool. Just make sure Jay could be heard too.
You're good.
Yeah, you hear
Yeah, I'm checking. So talk a little bit, Jay.
Hello?
Sounds good. Yes, I mean like consistently. Like say a sentence.
Man, what else do you want me to say? Come on,
There we
man.
go.
Good
Yeah,
morning,
yeah,
good morning, fan. Anything, dude.
Hey, man, I need a couple seconds, you know?
I feel you.
To jumpstart the old battery.
Because there's a delay.
Just
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
All right, everyone's good?
Yep.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm solid. Eugene?
Yeah, I'm good.
I didn't mean to say Eugene, but I said Eugene.
But okay. Guys, welcome to the 91st episode of the DualShock and Sense podcast. I am your host, Soul, connoisseur anime wife, who's joined, as always, by my two co-hosts. We have Walt here. What's going on, man? How you doing? How you doing on this beautiful Saturday morning?
Saturday morning's treating us well as the Lord's weekend. Ash Wednesday started last Wednesday. Ash, been trying to not eat too much meat. You know what I mean? But
No, I don't know what you mean.
nah, we chilling. We chilling. We savoring all these games, man. The good and the bad and the ugly. But here we are, man.
Yes, sir. We also got Macho here. What's going on, man?
It's going good. What's up, everybody? Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy fanatic. Off after a week, very fun, active week. Probably one of the best ones for February. It was actually Sammy's 26th birthday this past week. So, shoutouts to the wife. Happy birthday! And yeah, been doing a lot of gaming, man. So I'm excited to talk about it. It's been a very, very fun week. So, let's do it.
Nice, nice. We also have a very special guest, coinciding with the launch of the PlayStation VR2. So we had to get an expert into the podcast today. And that is none other than Gene from lordsofgaming.net. Gene, how you doing, my man? It's been a while.
I'm pretty good. You can't see right now, but I'm dabbing in front of my computer in celebration of you calling me the PSVR expert.
We also have a very special guest. You're lucky we weren't able to see that, or else we would have actually like kicked you out of the podcast if we saw that. But no, we're glad to have you on here, man. Because yeah, we have a lot to get through with PSVR 2, so yeah, we're very glad to have you.
I'm pretty good. You can't see right now.
So yeah, man, we got a very very packed show for you guys today, talking about state of play, talking about everything revolving around the world of PSVR 2. Just Gene's experience with the launch titles, the hardware, all that good stuff. But before we get into all that stuff, we are going to talk about the games that we have been playing these past 2 weeks, actually. Um, so Walt, why don't you kick things off for us, man? What have you been getting into this past couple weeks?
So this is the first week in a while, Soul, that I have played absolutely nothing. I
I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm right there with you.
I, let me tell you. I have Like a Dragon. I picked that up because I had pre-ordered. I have that steelbook. I got Signalis physical for the Switch. I have Hogwarts Legacy, and I also still am playing Dead Space, but I did not touch anything this past week. And I don't know, man. Honestly, I mean, I won't go much into it because there's not much to talk about. But yeah, I've just been kind of just watching shows, watching movies. Been more of a passive media consumer than I have actively been gaming. Um, Also a lot of life stuff. Life has been very busy, so not haven't really had the energy or the I don't know. I guess the mental focus to kind of get into an actual video game. But yeah, man. Well, so let's move on to Macho. I know Macho has more stuff that he's been having going on this week.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I got my dog here. I'm trying to eat a sandwich, and he's all over me. Get off of me, Harley. Come on.
Not in front of my salad. I mean sandwich.
Come on. Oh my god. What kind of saying is that? Not in front of my salad? What are you talking
I was like, is that a meme that I don't know about?
I won't go into it.
I don't know.
like,
Walt's been sending me so many memes on Instagram. It's been insane. I just been ignoring him.
I was like, I think of myself as pretty, smart in the world of memes. So I don't know what's going on.
You put that on your resume?
Yes, sir.
Technology.
Also, you goddamn idiots, go ahead and like this podcast.
Golly.
Oh man, he's got that broken games energy. That's wild. No, as far as games though, oh man, like I said, it's been a packed week. It's been a couple of weeks since we last talked on the pod, and so I've been playing a ton of Hogwarts Legacy. Not as much as I wanted to, because for the week, the way it's like kind of it's been structured, I've been doing like more family stuff. But I got about 40 hours into Hogwarts Legacy, and 70% through like the main story, I think it is. And this game just keeps getting better and better. I got to the winter portion of the game, and it's just escalating. And not in terms of like the story itself, it's kind of like pretty much, it's not generic, I'm gonna say. It's just more of just like it's just there. Again, the real sort of star of the show, and what I've been loving about this game is the open world, and not even just Hogwarts Castle. So I don't know if you've been playing a little bit more of Hogwarts Legacy, but just the outside world. It's not, is freaking Harley. It's not Red Dead Redemption 2 quality, but it's like a little bit more than Ghost of Tsushima's level of interaction, if that makes sense. But I've been enjoying it immensely. I'm loving the combat. I've been getting way more spells. I just got the Imperial Curse, which is a curse that what is it? It's like what's the term I'm thinking of? It basically puts other people like under your control. I'm trying to think of the actual term for that, but I just got that one. That has been super helpful with all the damn spiders that's in the game. And the Cruciatus Curse, which it inflicts a curse on your enemies, and then I got the ability where once you cast that spell, it actually bounces a curse effect from one enemy to another, and you can do more damage and stuff like that. So I've been enjoying the combat immensely just throughout the world and all the quests. Sebastian is my boy. He is so dope, and then I just learned a really cool little character moment with Natsuha. Who's a transfer student from Uagadu, which is really cool. So, so she's got sirens in the background. But yeah, I've been playing mostly Hogwarts Legacy, and looking forward to more Octopath Traveler 2 once I actually get my hands on that. And is there anything else I've been playing? Oh yeah, Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy, man. I got that as an early birthday present from the wife, and I've been playing it on Switch. And since we've been traveling the past couple days, I just been binging on that, dude. That thing is beefy. Like nearly 400 songs, plus like deluxe edition and all the season passes that's coming around. Dude, this is immaculate rhythm game. Like it's so much fun. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a rhythm game from Final Fantasy and other Square Enix properties, but mixed with RPG elements. So you get your party of 4 characters you can unlock every time you play a different game in the Final Fantasy series. You mix them together, and they all have their separate abilities. They can level up. They can influence how far you get in the stage, basically. So they can attack, they can inflict statuses, enemies can inflict statuses on you as well. So it basically is like a full-on turn-based RPG, but as a rhythm game. And you lose health, and that's how you actually lose like a stage and stuff like that. So it's been a ton of fun. It's a lot harder than the previous games, but it's so much fun. I'm having just a ball playing through the entire thing. And I didn't even finish it yet, but I did roll credits on the actual game. But there's still like maybe 6 or 7 other Final Fantasy games I haven't touched in the game so far. But yeah, lots of content in there. I'm gonna be playing that throughout the entire year. It's definitely worth the money if you're thinking about getting it. And even better that I got as a nice early birthday gift for my wife. So, but yeah, that's all I've been playing, man. Just a bunch of Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy and Hogwarts Legacy.
Nice. Yeah, so for me, it's kind of been a little similar to what Walt was saying. I just have nothing's really been grabbing my attention game-wise. I think it's also kind of like compounded because and you guys remember, I was really looking forward to Atomic Heart. So to find out that that game is just kind of like okay, and like I don't know, like sometimes like games that are like 7 out of 10s are like they can still be, you can still find like enjoyment out of it, but like I'm someone who really cares about story and character and things like that, and just to find
The
out that
content in there, I'm
those
playing
things
that
are kind
throughout
of
the
like
entire year. It's
bad
definitely worth
in this game.
definitely worth the money if you're thinking
And
about
I don't know,
getting it.
there
Yeah.
was some, I watched Skill Up's review on the game, and he was just saying a lot of stuff about like the gameplay and the enemies, and just like how long it takes to clear like combat arenas, because they just like dump waves of enemies after enemies after enemies at you, and it just gets like exhausting at some points. And like I don't know, just to hear all that stuff really just kind of like dissuaded me from trying the game. So like I don't know, if I see the game on sale for like $20, maybe I'll try it out because it still does look fairly interesting. But I don't know, that was something that I was like really interested or wanted to pick up like day one. So to see it come out the way that it did kind of really like made me depressed. So yeah, that was the whole Atomic Heart situation. I really been watching a lot more TV instead. I got into His Dark Materials on HBO, and the Harley Quinn series. Watching season 3 of that. It's
Oh
hilarious.
god.
Watch out, like that show is hilarious.
Yeah, so darn.
Yeah, I watched that scene again just to make sure if it was still funny, and it definitely is.
So
Batman,
sorry.
Ba- Batman and Catwoman this season is absolutely hilarious. Like, Catwoman is like she wants to be like alone, and Batman is like so goddamn clingy. Like this version of Batman, he won't like leave her alone, and he keeps like sending her gifts at her door and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's really funny to see that version of him. Um, yeah, definitely been watching a lot more TV. I did put a little bit more time into Hogwarts Legacy. Here's the thing.
Oh boy.
I feel like I've done like a 180 on this game. Cause like I think I was really like in like that honeymoon phase, like when I first like started playing it. Like everything was like so amazing. Like, oh my god, like I'm not that big of a fan of Harry Potter, and I was like, oh my god, I'm in Hogwarts. Like this is, I could still recognize how cool this was. I got the broomstick, so it was super cool flying around stuff. I love decking out my character in clothes. I will always love that in games. So just the fact that I could do that in this game, like yes, I really love that. Um, But my thing so far is just like I've been really disappointed. Like I don't know, maybe like 15 or 20 hours in. I don't know. The time on the PlayStation 5 is like kind of weird. Like I feel like it keeps telling me that I played like less than 1 hour. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not right. But I've been really disappointed with the fact of like how like bare bones of an RPG this game is. I think I was expecting it to be a lot more of that, and then like imagine my disappointment when I'm like playing like over 10 hours of this game, and then I find out that like the biggest decision that you make in this game, sort of like character wise, is like at the beginning, and that's like what house you want to be in. Aside from that, there's like no major choices that you have to make in this game with like lasting consequences or anything like that. And then even with that the houses, like you choosing what house you want to be in, there's no real like big difference between any of those houses. Um, I think you may get like one like unique quest depending on what house you choose, but like
Yeah, you
I
get
don't
one
know,
exclusive quest.
right. So like with things like that, it's like I don't know, almost like well, with like Cyberpunk with like the life paths, how like
Yeah.
we wish how we that you know when you choose a specific life path that those openings would last a little bit longer, but at least those openings are different from each of those life paths, right? So like I kind of wish that like and this is just one example, but with the houses that they really got into that a little bit more. Like what if you met more like unique characters specific to Hufflepuff that you would not meet if you chose Slytherin, for instance, or if you chose Gryffindor. There was a whole cast of unique characters specific to that house that you would not meet if you chose Ravenclaw, for instance. So like and again, like that being like the biggest choice of you choosing what house you want to be still ends up not being that big of a choice because the houses all like within themselves aren't very different aside from like the actual appearance. um so that kind of disappointed me, and then also just like the quests, like I got like because I feel like they could have done like a lot more with like I enjoy going to school in like Persona, for instance, but like I'd like the school here, the school aspect in this game, I feel like they could have gone a lot deeper with it. Like I don't know, I'm just a little bored by like the assignments that I'm getting. It's like, oh, use this potion in combat, or make this specific like a mandrake or whatever, and bring it to for Professor Garlic or whatever. Um,
Hell yeah,
like I don't know,
Professor Garlic, yes sir.
yeah, but like I don't know, I've been really bored of like the side quests in general. There have been like some cool ones, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I've just been like I haven't really felt the pull to come back. I feel like I've again played in I don't know like 15 or 20 hours of this game, and I feel like and obviously I probably haven't, but I feel like I've done like I've seen not seen everything, but like I feel like the game won't change much from what I've already played, if that makes sense. Like I've already like it's tough to explain because like I obviously haven't seen everything that there is to see in the game, but at the same time I feel like gameplay wise, it's not going to expand much from what I've already experienced. And what I've already experienced up to this point is kind of been like okay, if that makes sense. Like the first like introduction hours and like when you first like boot up the game and everything is new and fresh to you, like that stuff is like incredible, right? Those first initial hours, like just exploring the world and you're actually like in Hogwarts. That's so goddamn cool. But then like I don't know, I just feel like the longer I've been in there, I've just kind of been like, okay, like the novelty is like starting to wear off for me. And I guess maybe that's different for someone who's like more into that universe, and as opposed to me where I'm like, I liked Harry Potter as a kid, but like I haven't engaged with that universe in like over 10 years, so like maybe that's why I feel the way that I do. But yeah, I don't know, I've kind of done like a 180 on the game, and the main quest as well. Like I'm just kind of like at that point where like I'm just like kind of wanting to do main quest missions now, because like a lot of the side stuff like doesn't really like interest me all too much.
That's disappointing to hear.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't
I
know.
disagree completely, but you know that's your
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
man. It's your take. So
Yeah, for sure.
My man thought it was Divinity 3. Golly.
No, I was hey, man.
low key,
You know me.
low key. Ever since he finished Divinity 2, he's been
Man's
like
like,
aching for RPG like no other, and every other game has just failed him because it's not what
he
he
has
wants.
to. You gotta post that. You know the tweet that everyone does. How this game ruined gaming for me. You gotta put Divinity 3 ruined RPGs for me.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's a Hogwarts Legacy for me.
I'll
Um,
say give Avalanche a little bit more of a leeway, man. They've only worked on Disney Infinity before this, and a couple of those franchise titles we talked about. This is their first like sort of AAA major open world game. And as far as like a blueprint of what it is, I think they did really well.
oh, I'm not saying that the game is bad or anything. I'm just saying that
Okay.
like, yeah,
Man
I'm
just
just
needs
saying.
that philosophy in his game. You know that true stakes ending apocalyptic the assassin with tragic
Yeah,
story.
when you cast a Kedavra, you want it to mean something.
This man, yeah, he wants to cause a coup d'état in the school.
I mean, yeah, like that stuff, but also like I don't know, I'm just like a little bit bored of it to be quite honest, which I feel like is like the worst thing that because like I don't know, some bad games like goddamn Bubsy 3D or Sonic 06, like you can still find like enjoyment out of that and get some laughs out of that, but like I feel like the worst thing you can say about like a game or really like any piece of media is that like you feel like ambivalent towards it. And like I don't know, that's kind of like where I'm at right now, but like I still want to see it through to the end. So we'll see.
I don't know how
Um,
because like when I'm exploring the outside world, even as a fan of the franchise, the biggest thing for me is Hogwarts Castle. But like outside exploring is stuff we never even thought about in the books or the movies. So like I'm running into different stories and characters and situations that are not like again Red Dead Redemption 2 quality, but it's enough where it's like Ghost of Tsushima or Horizon where I'm just enjoying what I'm experiencing and sort of taking that as for what it is.
I love how Red Dead is the standard.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? What?
Absolutely. No, I agree.
Yeah.
It is.
yeah, maybe I need to do that more. Um, but
Like,
yeah, because
honestly, I think what could probably help me with Red Dead because when I followed the main path for Red Dead, I was kind of dropping off quickly. But once I actually ignored that, took my horse and went around the world, that's when I loved it and just absolutely fell in love with that game. So maybe Hogwarts Legacy could do the same thing for you, where instead of just following quests or a main path, just take your character and take your broom, and just go flying, see what you can find.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I feel like because I agree, and like I said this in our last podcast too, that like Hogwarts Castle is like absolutely incredible, of a location, and it's so like dense and layered. There's so much to see, there's so much like little interactions to run into there, but like I don't know, just like the surrounding open world has just kind of been like the Forbidden Wood or Forest is pretty cool because like I feel like I never know what I'm gonna see there. That like going through there is pretty cool. But like I don't know, just the outside surrounding world like hasn't been the most interesting to me. And maybe it's just because like I haven't like explored it far enough, but like you remember like in Elden Ring, like you would see something like in the goddamn horizon, and you'd be like, what the hell is that, right? And then you would like you feel that pull to like want to go over there, and like I just haven't really like if an area doesn't have the goddamn balloons that you can pop with your broom, like I then like I don't feel the excitement to like go over there. Um, but
What? Damn, that's crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You already got
Um,
people saying Hogwarts is better than Elden Ring. That's crazy.
It is.
Hey,
That's
yeah.
why it is.
It is. Damn, that's crazy.
Crazy. But yeah, man, that is my like updated thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy. Um, Gene, let's move into you. Well, how do we want to do
Whoa,
this?
pause.
Do we come on now.
Yo, my man got saucy.
how do we want to structure this? Do we want to immediately jump into PSVR2? Do we want to knock out State of Play first and then just like spend the rest of the time on PSVR2, or how should we go about this? And this is a question open to anyone,
I don't have a preference. I don't care.
Walt, Macho, what do you guys think?
I mean, well, for State of Play, the only thing I'm gonna mention is Bark Bark Woof Woof Cammy. Step on Me, Do What You Will, and Resident Evil 4. Let's go, baby.
So let's knock out State of Play first before we get into PSVR2. So Sony had a State of Play on Thursday, right? How do we want to do this? Thursday?
Yeah.
Come on. And so beforehand, they let us know that the headliner was gonna be
Step on Me,
Suicide Squad,
Do
Kill the
What You
Justice
Will.
League, and immediately I
well,
was
for
like, oh
State
boy.
of Play, the only thing I'm gonna mention
I
is
was like, oh no.
Bark Bark
And
Woof
then
Woof
they also said
Cammy.
that they would have reveals from third parties, and I believe in the blog post they described it as like quote unquote hot indies, and I was like, okay. And then also they said that they would reveal 5 new PSVR 2 games as well, scheduled to release in 2023, I believe. So just sort of like top level thoughts. What did everyone think about this State of Play? Really quickly, my thoughts. I thought it couldn't last. It wasn't sustainable, right? We were coming off the heels of 2 fantastic State of Plays, right? And I was like, the bubble got to burst at some point, man. It's not gonna continue. But at the same time, I don't care that this was a bad State of Play, because you know why? Well, you know what I got out of this State of Play?
What?
Got that Baldur's Gate 3 release date, baby. and are you kidding me? It is day and date with PC. Are you kidding me, man? Like, I literally did when I saw that, when I was watching the State of Play, and I saw that it was, first of all, when I saw it was in here in the first place, I literally did that DJ Khaled meme where he's like drinking that mimosa, he like stands up immediately. That was literally me, man. I was like, hey, yo, now this is a surprise, because like the thing with Divinity Original Sin 2, like that didn't come to consoles until like I want to say a few years after the PC release. So like I was fully like, I kept telling you guys like, hey, this is the one game that would make me get a PC. Like, this is the one game that would make me do that. So like I never expected that it would come day and date with PC. So like this was like legitimately like an awesome surprise. Aside from that and Street Fighter 6 and Resident Evil 4 continuing to look absolutely incredible, there wasn't really much in the State of Play for me. So what about you guys? What did you guys think about it?
Woof. Woof.
That was the worst State of Play of all time.
No, really?
What was worse?
I feel like
That's a checkmate.
no, some of the early ones in 2019, the first ones were really, really bad. I mean, those were the ones that laid out the expectation that State of Plays will be bad, right? Those early ones when we had goddamn like Iron Man VR as like the headliner game in there. Go back to some of those 2019 ones. Like they were awful.
There was one, the very first State of Play was VR, Crash Team Racing, Nitro Fueled, No Man's Sky, Ready Set Heroes, Blood and Truth, Observation, Five Nights at Freddy's, VR, Help Wanted, Concrete Genie, Days Gone, and Mortal Kombat 11. So not wrong, but I mean those are very close. Like those 2 State of Plays right there are very close.
Mm, yeah. I'm not gonna argue that this is like definitely like, I don't know, maybe like top 5 worst. Like it's definitely in there for sure. Did any of the VR titles look interesting to you, Gene? Because like I think there was one aside from Humanity looked pretty cool to me. But like really like I was expecting like something, and like none of those titles really did anything for me. What about you?
That was very bad to me. Like that, honestly. And this is where the Baldur's Gate thing that's great, fine, whatever, right? And this is why this is one of the worst State of Plays ever, because not only did it it do like nothing for a lot of these games. It was very negative. I felt like it was very detrimental to PSVR, and we'll talk about the library of
for me. What
games and
about
what's
you?
going on with PSVR. That was very bad.
But
If
to
you're
me,
on
like
the
that,
fence
honestly,
about PSVR, and let's be honest with you, you guys don't have a VR headset. You guys love PlayStation. You guys love video games. Did that, as consumers, did that do anything for you to get you to go out and spend $500-600 on a VR headset, or did that steer you away from that even being a thought in your brain? That was awful. Those are games that you put in the blog, and I really
Yeah.
thought a lot of their VR games had been on the blog, and I see why, because you don't take these low budget indie games and put them next to AAA games. You have to kind of separate that out or find creative ways to mix them in together, right? So everything's been on the blog, and I'm like, oh wow, 5 VR games that they haven't announced yet. On a state those of are play. games. This is
going to
be something, and
relevant,
I really
right?
thought
This
this
is
is going to be some relevant. A lot of their VR games could be in the AAA space or
and I see
Sony
why,
published
because you
space
don't
or
take
Sony
these
partner
low-budget
space.
indie games
If these are
and
going to
put 'em
be
next
in
to
a state of
AAA
play,
games, you have to
and
kind
it
of
was
separate
more
that out
or find
fast
creative ways
forwards
to mix them in
and
together,
those
right? Types of games. I didn't find any single one of those games interesting in any capacity, and I felt like people who were on the fence who watched that was detrimental to them going out and buying a VR headset.
Interesting. That's interesting perspective, because the one thing I took from it as someone that was getting a little bit of FOMO on PSVR 2 because of Resident Evil, Gran Turismo, all those really cool titles that people were talking about, the state of play made me look at it and be like, are there only first person shooters available for this thing?
No, but and I thought that at least Resident Evil 4, whatever it is they're doing with Resident Evil 4 in VR, would be a lock for that state of play, because like that was like the quote unquote Resident Evil 4 Capcom state of play, right? For the most part. Where is that? What is that going to be? And why do I have a strange feeling that that's going to come out in like June, and it's going to be like the little gun range is going to be in VR?
Oh no, they just started development. Did you see that post that they made?
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, so Capcom tweeted out. It was like God, I forget what time. It was probably like at 3 a.m. It was like when I was like like in my night owl hours.
Which is
But
4
like
p.m. in
they're
Japan.
yeah. So I think it was like literally the Resident Evil Japan account said that, hey, development for Resident Evil 4 VR is now underway. So like they literally just started. So that thing I'm not expecting until maybe next year. So who knows?
And here's the problem: the Resident Evil 4, that's perfectly fine. The VR one that's on Oculus, that is fantastic. That's great. That's finished. That's done, and it looks great. That is funded by Oculus. So instead of leasing or selling or renting that out to Sony, whatever it is they can't, because Facebook published it or funded it, right? And like what sucks about this right now, because that could just be on VR, right? That could be on PSVR right now, and now they're going to go take money from Sony to make another version where it's like this Resident Evil 4 game is going to get a VR component, probably it's RE Engine, so they're just probably gonna put the game in first person, and then next year it'll come out, a year and a half from now, whatever, and
Mhm.
have VR support that way. So it'll be a second VR release of Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, but I mean, you would also like it would also almost be like a new game, right? Because the one on Meta, right, is the original game, and whereas this one is the remake, and we are all suspecting that there are going to be major changes to that original game with RE4 remake. So it's like I'm expecting it to be like essentially like two different games almost that PlayStation is getting versus what Meta ultimately got.
Yeah, you're right. But just to clarify, the version on Meta, they put a lot of work into the visuals on that. It looks fantastic.
Oh, okay, cool.
We might, you might
so
expect the same thing for like Resident Evil 8 VR for the same treatment for 4 VR, right? For 4 remake.
That's probably what they're doing.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought if it was going to come out now alongside the game, I thought it'd be like the shooting gallery would be in VR, because they said a VR component, and they were always like weird about the terminology.
Yeah. I mean, with the fact also, I think what kind of drives that home a little bit more is the fact that Resident 4 remake is coming with mercenaries, so that's another mode for that VR mode as well. Which I think 8 has the same thing, so it's more just kind of like trying to same ground.
we'll get into that, but it's just the base game is in VR, not even the DLC, nor Mercenaries is in VR.
Okay.
Just the base
Interesting.
But yeah, I agree as someone that's like on the outside looking in with VR that like I was really I don't know, maybe expecting is too strong of a word, but like I was hoping that that would be like because we were all like hoping and assuming that there would be like a dedicated PSVR 2 state of play, that had to have come at some point. And then when they finally announced that this was going to have 5 brand new PSVR 2 games, we're like, okay, this is the one that finally is like, if you weren't sold on PSVR 2, this is going to be the state of play for you. And so coming into this, I was really expecting to like have some sort of like almost like Half-Life Alex. I kind of
Yeah,
hoping that would
same.
be in here,
Same.
but like games like that because they do need big like giant system sellers for that platform, and so walking into this, I was expecting there had to be like one title like on that level that's just like this transformative experience on VR, and to walk away from this state of play and just like look at those 5 titles and be like that didn't move the needle for me like at all. If anything, it made it worse. And I feel like that goes into your point, Gene, of like, yeah, this was almost like this had like it backfired, like it almost had the opposite intention, I feel like, for them, you know?
Yeah, it didn't draw
I
a lot of
thought
excitement, you know.
Yeah, I thought Iron Man VR from that very first day of play. I thought that was a system seller. They put it on the box. They dropped the price of the PSVR. They sold a ton of units. That game was very popular internationally, especially in Asia. Iron Man VR. While this state of play, I mean, honestly, I think it hurt them at a time where it's pretty obvious that the VR didn't sell that well because they didn't sell out of them, and we know they're only making 3 million between January and March. So maybe they've got 1 million units, maybe they've got 1.5 million units sold, and they really needed to hit that 3 million. I think they really needed to sell out, and this is not going to do anything for them. And I think the Half Life Alex thing, I think it's coming. An influencer or a leaker recently said, I've been told that Valve and Sony are talking. Valve said themselves. That's such a stupid thing for a quote unquote leaker to say. Valve said themselves that they're talking to Sony, and they said it 2 years ago.
There you go.
I hope, because yeah, that's a game that like I feel like you just absolutely cannot miss on your platform.
Right, but technically speaking, it's owned by somebody else, right? It's like
Right.
saying that Halo's a game you got to have on your platform. They don't have the rights to it. Fortunately, Gabe Newell is very open. He believes in moving VR forward. He is beyond VR gaming, and he's into like neuroscience and how VR is going to transform neuroscience. And he loves what Sony's done with the eye tracking. So his interest is not about making Valve better and having exclusive games on Valve, very obviously, but he's more about expanding VRs. It's coming. It's absolutely coming to PlayStation VR. But you do not put out Half-Life Alyx alongside Resident Evil Village and Horizon. You just don't do it.
Yeah, for sure. Walt, what about you, man? What did you think about this state of play?
Dude, that did nothing for me. Like the only things that did something for me, I already knew about. I mean,
Right.
I'm great. Like I'm happy for Street Fighter fans because they get to thirst for more. But I mean,
Just
it's like
just name names, Walt. Name names. Come on, buddy.
macho, you degenerate. I know. I saw you. I saw that post.
You saw my tweets? Yeah. My wife knows. She knows.
Yeah, I know she knows. I bet she also appreciates it.
I feel so bad for Capcom that roster leaked because we have like 4 more events to suffer through of a roster we already know about.
Well, that's the thing that made it like really interesting and fun, I guess, is that even though I knew about the leaks, I still get excited for these character trailers because they just blow my expectations out of the water and with presentation and everything. So it's still a lot of fun. Now from here on to June, we're just gonna get more single player updates, I assume, and then the open beta and stuff like that. So it's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah, and I mean,
Have you had-
and the only other thing that really kind of stood out was the Resident Evil trailer, and
What a
seeing
trailer,
more
man.
of it. That game is shaping up to be probably like on caliber with the RE2 remake, if not even better, because it looks like it has what RE2 remake had and more, like true Resident Evil, like to the core. And I was one of the biggest things that I was dreading which is the Krauser thing, because that is one of the more annoying fights of the game. It looks fun. It looks like they're making it really engaging. Like they're making it fit the new approach of and gameplay, and it looks fun. It doesn't look annoying because I mean, back then the controls and mechanics were so dated.
Did you guys notice they made Ashley older?
Yeah, she looks older, and she is taller, and she is less annoying, and when she screams, it's not agonizing. Listen, everything about Resident Evil proper, like Resident Evil 4 proper, the original one, what made it good was that it was different, and it was the first of its kind to do what it did, but it doesn't hold up to today's standards. And this remake, oh my god, this is looking to be like Game of the Year contender type deal, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be. And oh my god, it's so we got that last glimpse at the end with the surgical chair, and that, oh man, hinting at so many lore moments. I'm excited, man. But that's pretty much what really stood out to me. And Baldur's Gate, because that's a game I haven't really purchased on early access. I want it to be fully out, and actually dive deep into it. But yeah, man. So Resident Evil, Baldur's Gate, and Cammy.
Yeah, I was talking to my neighbor about Baldur's Gate 3, and he loves Divinity Original Sin 2, so he's so happy it's coming to PS5. But I definitely want to join in that group with you guys. Maybe just do some co-op and some like missions through that. I want to do that. That sounds fun.
It's the closest thing we'll have for D&D. Because as much as Divinity is, inspired by D&D tabletop RPGs and whatnot, Baldur's Gate is like even closer to that, because there is like an actual even module for it, and it's more customizable in that way, and it has more traditional D&D-esque mechanics in it. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited for that game. It looks beautiful. That game is looking next gen. But what is next gen? Shut up.
The one thing, and I'm sure you guys saw this on Twitter. The one thing that kind of like, I don't know, it's really, really weird. I don't know if you guys saw the reaction from a certain group of people when it was announced that it was PS5 and PC day.
Name names.
And they know who they are. They know who they are.
They know who they are, he said.
Yeah. They have to look at themselves in the mirror every goddamn day.
No, they don't. It's a clown mirror, man. They don't see the same thing we do.
All you'll hear is winky, winky.
Yeah, so they're over here complaining to the devs like, oh, you guys took money from Sony. Why isn't this coming to our platform and all this stuff, to the degree that the community manager actually had to come out on Twitter and say like, relax, like, and they actually had to explain why it's not coming to Xbox day and day, and it's not for quote unquote nefarious reasons. It's not because they took a bag from Sony. It's for actual, real, practical reasons why it's not coming to Xbox day and date.
And it's a Series S. Yeah. Blame it. It's a Series
S. All I'll say is that after that clarification, Soul, there was a lot of this tweet is not available. This tweet is not. And I'm like, oh yeah, where's that energy now?
Imagine that. And people, like, their main argument was like, transparency. Well, why aren't the devs transparent with us? Why wouldn't they just say this? It's like, it's been a day. Like, it has been a day. Like, I don't know. It's weird, really weird behavior, man.
It's much easier just announcing something than explaining a problem. I don't know. Because when you try to explain something, then you have that same community manager responding to posts, be like, that's not what the statement says. That's why they didn't say anything, because it creates this drama. People are just so impatient.
In what world, and has any company done this, but in what world will Sony announce on their own, digital event that, hey, Baldur's Gate 3 is coming to PlayStation 5. It's also coming to Xbox as well. In what world would they actually say that in their own presentation? Exactly. What company has ever done that, right? So, like, I don't know, man. It's just so weird. Like, I don't know, man. It's really unfortunate to see, like, people, like, I like, for the devs to actually come out and have to be like, hey, like, can you guys just relax? Like, this is getting like a little crazy.
Shout out to Flame. We were in the DMs talking about that, and he was like, I'm not gonna listen to their bitching and moaning, I'm just gonna play Octopath Traveler 2, which is a game they should be playing. I'm like, oh damn, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
But I think to that point though, I think it was because of split screen. Like one of the technical issues was split screen co-op for Baldur's Gate 3. The reason why it has that problem with the Xbox consoles, which is like it was just kind of weird because what's that game? The horror game that debuted on Game Pass. The Medium.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't that also have split screen? It had problems with the Xbox consoles at launch.
I
It
don't
was,
remember.
running. It was running like two separate environments at the same time.
Yeah.
The whole point of the medium was that you were in the real world and then in like the spiritual world. So the screen was split, and it would run two. Like it wouldn't be like one single environment. It'd be two environments at the same time. So it was rendering like double the power.
Oh, okay. Totally different than what Baldur's Gate 3 is. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the Bluebird team.
Yeah.
Is it
Mhm.
for medium?
Yeah.
Okay.
So sort of the big question after this state of play ended was, and we had our good friend Jeff Grubb the next day come out and talk about this. Is this theoretical PlayStation showcase that we've been waiting for a while now? And it really does feel like they are holding things back because like for instance, we've known about Helldivers 2 like for a really long time, and that was a game that had its trailer like leaked. I want to say even like before September, because we were expecting that game to show up in that state of play, but it didn't. And then we were expecting it to show up at the VGAs, and then it didn't. So I mean, that's one game that just feels like almost pseudo Nintendo-esque, where like they can just drop a trailer for that game like right now if they wanted to, but they're holding it back for whatever reason. They still, I feel like, need to show off Firewall Ultra at some point, and they really haven't, aside from like the initial reveal. So I don't know. It just feels like there is a ton to show. So that's why like this state of play, like yes, it happened, but I forgot about it like literally the next day. Because like it just feels like there is something coming on the horizon. So yeah, how do you guys feel about the potential showcase, and like it really does feel like they have like a ton that they need to talk about, right?
Yeah, my source tells me they're getting something at the end of March, so stay tuned for that.
Man, you don't have any sources, man.
Trust you? What's the source? Trust you, bro.
Well, first of all, his first name is Trustin, and second name is
Okay.
yeah.
My
so,
bad.
Yeah,
Bro, yeah, broski.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay.
Keep it low key. Come on.
Are you like that's the senator or the from Metal Gear Revengeance? You know what's your source? I made it the fuck up.
No, I mean, Gene, what do you think, man? As potential showcase.
Well, they have to date Spider-Man, which I think Spider-Man 1, I think they dated on a blog post. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they did. They have to date Spider-Man, and they're probably saving that. Like, May sounds great, right? If that game's coming out in October, November, a May release date announcement, like, they're 100% sure of that release date in May if it's coming out in October, November. I mean, they're 110% sure. But you're right. To me, the canary in the coal mine is the Helldivers thing. But there's still a lot of stuff they don't have to show. I mean, we don't know how far along a lot of these games are because you don't know what the impact was during COVID. Every game was in a totally different state, and after watching that Psychonauts 2 documentary, which is like totally changed my mind on everything. I think it took them like
Yeah.
7 years to make that game, and that game's
Yep.
not that big and ambitious because they hit massive roadblocks at very critical times. And I think a lot of these games were getting greenlit and about to go full speed ahead, and then boom, the pandemic comes. For sure, that's the case with Spider-Man 2. For sure, that's the case with Ghost of Tsushima 2, which I think gets announced with like a title card at the state of play, because that's probably 2024 would be 4 years later.
Yeah.
We don't know how, but if the pandemic cost them a year and a half, I mean, that might be a 2025, 2026 game. Um, and then, how far along, we don't really know how far along Deviation is. We know that Jade Raymond's team they're not far along at all. But
Exactly.
how far along is Deviation? That game started in 2018. They've recently had some leads leave, but they've expanded to another studio in Canada. There's like 300 or 400 people working there. Like they're full bore. Like they should show that game. And but is a Call of Duty adjacent or Destiny adjacent? Sony doesn't know what to do with it, and the timing's got to be perfect. And do they want to wait for this legal stuff to be over with before they announce that, or maybe they've acquired that team because they opened up a second location? Uh,
Right.
there's probably more people working there than just about any other Sony studio except for Bungie, and maybe Sony Santa Monica when it was full steam ahead.
And like Naughty Dog and Gorilla is pretty huge too. And Insomniac as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
definitely bigger than like a team like Sucker Punch, I would say.
And fractions. Okay, and I'm gonna stop calling it fractions because I don't think it's called fractions. But the Last of Us multiplayer game, right?
Yeah.
Neil had kind of hinted that we would find out more later this year. Like I think at the Game Awards, the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I don't think that's gonna be in this big state of play. I don't think it's fractions. I really think it's gonna be the Division. I think that when Sony sat back and did some of these live service games, they took what was already out there and said, "Let's do that, but let's make it a Sony game." And I think that the Fractions is going to be like the Division. That Neil is writing on a game. We know he's working on this multiplayer game, so there's going to be lore and story elements. It's not just going to be a free multiplayer add-on to The Last of Us Part One or The Last of Us Part Two remake. It's going to be a full-fledged game with story elements, and I think it's going to be the Division. And then we saw the Horizon leak, and it looks like it's going to be Monster Hunter. So.
Yeah.
And how far along is that? How old is that video? If, maybe that's something that comes out in late 2024. Who knows? I I think there's about 15, 20 games that could be in a good place and ready to show, and could be in a bad place and not ready to show. So I think the difference is somewhere in the middle, and I think there's probably about 6, 7, 8 games on the first party side that Sony's ready to show, including Helldivers.
Do you think um because I feel like this showcase is like really like it's gonna be almost like a mirror of Sony's E3 2016 press conference where they basically showed you like what the rest of that generation was gonna look like. And I feel like that's not too out of the realm of possibility with this showcase, even though Sony has been better about not showing games that are like 4 years out. They've been a lot better at that. We talk about this all the time, but like everything that was revealed at the PlayStation Future Gaming event in 2020 is out. Is pretty much out already, aside from like Goodbye Volcano High and like Little Devil Inside. So they did like a really good job about that, of showing games that are like at the most like 2 years out. But like I do wonder, and I want to ask you, Gene, specifically, do you think in this showcase we see uh Corey's next game? Because we know he's working on something new. He's been working on it for a while now. And do we see Naughty Dog's new, which Neil's game that's after Factions, but what he and Kurt Marganow have been working on? Um, do you think we see both of those? Do we see one of those? What do you think is more likely from those two that we see first?
No to both on seeing that at this state of play. And I think that it's going to be the next like year and a half. And I think if they do something far out, it's going to be like Twisted Metal, right? They're going to want it to, I don't, we know Twisted Metal is probably further along than we think because
I think so
it
too.
was at the other studio then moved. But how did that really impact it? Did they have to start over when it moved and change studios? Um, but something like Twisted Metal, they're going to want to talk about the game when they talk about the TV show, so they could, if that is 2 years away, they could just announce it with like a title card or maybe a short trailer, so they're able to talk about it alongside the TV show and hire for it. Again, if they show Corey's game, which I don't think they will, it would only be because they want to be able to talk about it and hire people. That's kind of the incentive to showing these games really early and addressing leaks. They could address leaks like We know about the Horizon multiplayer game. We know about the Horizon remake. So maybe they just get him out there so they can talk about him and have control over those conversations as opposed to letting it kind of be out there in the ether. Although that's not traditionally what this new Sony has done.
Right.
But
And
if
we,
they
we
want
also know we also know about the ballistic moon project as well too. That was on that
to,
leaked document.
yeah, and I think that that is going to be probably like I would bet on that before I would bet on Corey's next game.
Right. I guess my thing is that like I I forget if it was I think it was 2021 if you remember like Santa Monica like actually posted like on Twitter like hey, we have like all these job openings, come work with us on a brand new unannounced game. And they were talking about that in like 2021. So like I don't know, I just assumed that like obviously because I was watching Eric Williams did a podcast with Ted Price, I think like a few days ago, and he was saying like they literally started Ragnarok like in 2018. So like I just imagine that like the main God of War team splintered off to to work on Ragnarok, while Corey and maybe like a small team incubated what he is going to work on. So like I feel like this isn't something that like, and obviously that game is going to like require like the full team to like get that game like up and running. But like I just imagine that thing, whatever Corey's been working on, has been going on since like 2019 at the earliest. So like I feel like it's been a few years, and like I just feel like it could be at a point where like even if it's a CGI trailer that we see something about that thing.
Well, and this kind of speaks to the unknowns of COVID, right? Because if they started that game hypothetically in pre-production in 2019, they go ramp up pre-production, and boom, the pandemic comes,
Right,
and
right.
then God of War Ragnarok starts to slip, and they've got to go work on that and pitch in and help out, and they're working on that. That's exactly what happened at Psychonauts 2. Exactly to a T. They finished the VR game, and they had to pull people off of that. Um, I'm making that correlation because they went through that entire situation with a much smaller game.
Yeah.
So I don't I think it's a massive unknown, and I think that it sounds like they're a candidate for really being impacted during the pandemic because they probably got pulled off that game to finish Ragnarok during the delays in the pandemic, and they probably lost. There's no way they lost anything less than 6 months due to the pandemic. So they might have lost a full year. I That's my guess. And then maybe they lose 6 months to getting pulled off into Ragnarok, and I'm just assuming they were pulled off into Ragnarok, and I think that's a safe assumption to make based on the delays with Ragnarok, and them just wanting to get that out the door. They had to have been playtesting that game. There's no way you're going to have Corey and his team and those great people around, and they're not playtesting the game at least,
Right.
um, and giving feedback and going to meetings, especially during a full remote environment. So I think that that one is on the further off side, where the Ballistic Moon thing is probably closer. It sounds like a small horror game. That's the Hitchcock one. The Sony liked what they saw and then partnered with them. It sounds like they started in 2018, 2019. And it's a smaller, less ambitious game. Where Corey's team is probably designing new gameplay loops.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And we assume it's a new IP and that it will always take longer than something that's, more
yeah.
established.
Mhm.
So, yeah, yeah. And the same could be said for Neil's next game too, which we assume will be a new IP. But yeah, I guess just to wrap up this discussion, like that leaked document that we saw was like people need to keep in mind it was just like the actually no, it wasn't it was like mostly like XDev projects, right? Because
Yeah.
I was trying to make the correlation because we didn't for instance, we did see Rise of the Ronin on there, but we didn't see things like Stellar Blade and Lost Soul Side on there. So like I feel like yeah, we know a lot of like, the XDev projects, obviously with Death Stranding 2, Ballistic Moon project. Um they also had like the Fire Sprite games on there, Twisted Metal for example. There was one more that I'm forgetting that was on there. Carbon. That was like a Sumo Digital like open world game. That XDev is partnering with them on. There's that, but like I just wonder because yeah, we didn't see Stellar Blade, we didn't see Lost Soul Side. Um, I'm just curious, like what are the games that we don't know about, that weren't on that leaked document? So like there's just like and we haven't even talked about, like Blue Point. I feel like they're ready to show something for sure. Like it's been almost like 2.5 years since Demon Souls. So like the point is that like there's a lot of teams that should be ready to show things off. Um that's why I feel like state of plays, I usually have no expectation, but like for this showcase, like I'm expecting it to be as big as like the future gaming event.
Yeah, and like I said, I think you can make a case for like 18 teams to show something, and we're going to get somewhere in the middle. And don't forget, they're going to have all new third-party partnerships. And when the leaks came out of Sony has money-hatted third-party games, there was a famous like tweet that upset everyone from Imran Khan that Sony has got games that you would think would normally be multi-platform, and that's when we found out they had all those Bethesda games, and they were trying to get Starfield, and they had Final Fantasy 16. Among that list that there were rumblings to was the BioShock game from 2K.
Right, which we still haven't seen yet. Um, so yes,
I can see how this state of play was even more shitty because there are so many things y'all are talking about that we didn't even see. And now I'm like, damn, this wizard was ass. Damn.
yeah, and to be fair, like they said, I feel like I knew what to expect when they don't mention first party in the blog post for a state of play. So I was like, okay,
When they say that Suicide Squad is like the big thing at the end, you know it's not going to be a good one.
that's something we
When,
didn't talk about. We didn't talk about Suicide Squad.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, is there something to talk about?
I mean, Macho, how did you feel? Because we got a pretty like substantial look at the game. Um, I think my biggest takeaway was like, why does this goddamn city look like it's just like always in a state of like peril, like chaos, like everything's just like destroyed. Like, is there no sections where you can just like walk around and like everything is like cool? Is everything just always on fire and buildings like crumbling and shit? Um, but what do you think, Macho, watching this extended look at Suicide Squad?
I thought the first minute was interesting and looked fun with all the traversal mechanics and Harley Quinn being like Spider-Man and Boomerang going back and forth in the air and pulling off some headshots, stuff like that. But then they got longer. This trailer got longer, and it just kept going. And I was like, "Oh man, this is." And then what really turned me off from the entire thing, dog, was when the dude in the behind the scenes was talking about weapons and how that's tied to your gear score and all. And I was like, "Oh God, no! This is Gotham Knights all over again. It's Avengers. They can't keep doing this. Like, come
They keep
on."
getting away with it.
Honestly, I was already kind of down on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, even having some hype from Gotham Knights, and that turned out what it was. But man, this is coming out the gate already. I'm just like, I am just not interested. And I love DC characters, dude. Like I love engaging in this world and the comics and the characters. Harley Quinn's one of my favorite characters of all time. But dude, this is just not hitting the notes for me. And honestly, I what I did like from this at least was the story set with Wonder Woman, right? That little surprise there, and her catching Flash, and him revealing that you have to kill us. Like this is the only way this has to end. And it makes me think like if they're revealing that in the trailer, they're either gonna go all the way with it or they're just not. And like one or two Justice League members are gonna be killed, and that kind of sucks for a game that's called Kill the Justice League, and you're only gonna off like one or two, and it's like Superman and the Flash or something. Like that's kind of lame to me. But that's what I think they're gonna go. I think they'll play it safe. It is what it is. But also shout out to the dev saying how Deadshot has a swagger to him when he's traversing around the world.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Man, flashbacks to Miles Morales.
Miles Morales, yeah, he grew up, man. Now he's a villain.
No, he's Deadshot.
Deadshot now. No, listen, I think that the biggest thing this game has going for it, I will say, the heroes or the villains in this case, and the villains or the heroes, they look good. I like the design. I like how Superman looks. I like how Flash looks. I like how Wonder Woman looks. I will say the gameplay reminds me of Prototype. It just looks like nonsense, like just chaos all the time. Like there's no weight to it. There's no it doesn't hit. Like Sifu has more hit to it. When you fight enemies, it looks like there's more going on there. Like there's more sense to each punch than it does here shooting just nonsense. It doesn't look. It looks like it'll be fun for like 30 minutes, like 3 hours maybe, and then I'll be like, you know what? I think I'm good with this game. Let me go and cancel my Game Pass subscription.
Oh yeah, dude. Actually, to more on that, the little purple orb that they're shooting on for like 3 minutes in the trailer. I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
out. I'm out.
Yes, sir, brother. Love those bullet punches, baby. Listen, this ain't it. I mean, here's the thing. This is the kind of game that a lot of people really, really, really like because a lot of people are like, "Oh, damn, this really solidified my faith in Rocksteady." And then you got people like Neo saying like, "It's called Suicide Squad," because Rocksteady killed any chance of making good games, and just run up into the distance. Because I mean, this game, I don't know. I'm not. Are you guys buying it? I'm buying Baldur's Gate first, then I am even touching Suicide Squad. Like I'm not.
No, this reeks Avengers vibes to me. But Avengers, the one thing Avengers had was that extra characters were coming, right? Suicide Squad, what is this gonna have?
I mean,
You know?
I will say it'll have what Avengers got eventually, and it's no more support.
Did you guys see the
Damn.
the helicopter weak spot thing?
Mm.
They showed like a flying helicopter, and it's got these purple weak spots underneath it and the bottom of it, and I'm just like, do we really need to see the weak spots on a helicopter?
Yeah, that was so same before. That's the one spot that turned me off. I was like, are we really gonna like? Is this really it now? Like, come on, dude. Purple spots like as points of interest to shoot, really?
They saw Resident Evil with the yellow blood like blisters, and they're like, "Oh, let's do purple." Like, no.
And that Suicide Squad comes out May 26th. This is going to be a really interesting, kind of experiment because traditionally you don't see games come out on holiday weekends, and the pro is, oh wow, we're home on a holiday weekend, let's get a video game to play for the holiday weekend. The con is that is one of the most traveled holiday weekends all year. Memorial Day weekend, the 26th there, Monday is Memorial Day in the United States. I think this game's gonna bomb.
Well, to that point, Gene, I just thought of right now. Doesn't Tears of the Kingdom come out that weekend?
No, Tears of the Kingdom comes out May 12th. So, like,
oh, okay.
It's going to own the whole month. Tears of the Kingdom's going to be a 100-hour game. So, it's not like people are going to be coming off like a drought of games, of quality games. They're going to be coming off of Tears of the Kingdom. And I think people are going to buy Tears of the Kingdom throughout the month of May. This game is dead on arrival, DOA.
Yeah, it's gonna like spark super high. Like maybe like a lot of people are gonna like, oh yeah, and then nah, I'm good. And then you're gonna see shelves just full with it in GameStop. Which I was gonna say GameStop, but no, GameStop is also dying. Everything's on clearance. It's like in its final stages. But yeah, man.
You're not gonna have influencers really talking about this game for very long because the next week, June 2nd, Street Fighter 6. Then the week after that, you have Diablo 4. And then 2 weeks after that, you have Final Fantasy 16. I don't know. I don't think this is going to be very successful.
The thing that kind of makes me a little nervous, because we know Sony has their own live service push that they're doing, both internally and with studios that they partnered up with, like Deviation. Is that like with Suicide Squad specifically? I bet you this is. When did Arkham Knight come out? 2015, right? So
Yeah. Damn.
So let's be generous and say that they started working on this like in 2016. It's been 6 years, 7 years, right?
Trying to
Yeah,
make us
7
feel
years.
old, golly.
So let's say it's been 7 years. So what was I bet you when they started development on this game, right? That's when or when they started getting like into meat of the development of this game. That's when live services were popping off. They were the popular thing. They were the new kids in school, right? Everyone wanted to be them. So it made sense to back in 2018, 2019, 2020 to like be working on a game like this. It's been, like 3 years past that. I don't know if that's necessarily like what was hot back in 2018, 2019, 2020, I don't know if that's necessarily if that works now. And I think that can also be applied with Sony in their live service games, is because like I feel like they should have been doing this like 2 years ago or something like that. I just worry that like they're coming into this a little bit late, and specifically like with Suicide Squad, that this game should have came out like 2 years ago or something like that. Like now, because we're seeing all these service games, just kind of like come and go. Maybe they last like a year and then they die. Even Multiverses is kind of like seeing like a big drop off, right, Macho?
Yeah, yeah. Oh god, their player base dropped like 100% or something like that. Something crazy.
Yeah, so like I just feel like I don't know if it's the community as a whole is just kind of like dropping off these kinds of games, or again it's that classic thing of just like people are just kind of like picking and choosing their three favorites, and they're just like sticking to those, and they're not willing to like really deviate too much, not willing to deviate too much from their favorites. Um, so like I just feel like now more than ever it's really really difficult to break into that space, and with Suicide Squad, like I feel like it's just gonna be like another name to add to the long list of like failed live service games, where like again it was maybe a good idea to start making a game of this kind back in 2018, but like now I like the landscape is different. It's really really different. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
It sometimes feels like the mindset that they go with is let's make a a game that is a in their mind an 8 or a 9, but in reality it's not, and it only dwindles in quality instead of like how Eric Williams approaches like a video game like with God of War. Like they make a game that can get them a 6 or a 7, and then they'll improve it to an 8 or a 9. And I feel like these developers just they think they know what the audience wants, but they're not really cracking the code, because you're not gonna have a Fortnite happens once in a blue moon, a Destiny happens once in a blue moon. You're not gonna have these hits back to back, because again, live service implies commitment. Commitment implies time, and time is something that not a lot of people our age are having lately. And if we do have time, like Macho and we play single player games. We don't play live service because, quite frankly, how am I getting rewarded? Honestly, I don't know. I feel like it's also like the age gap. Like I feel like there was a time where live service was, like you said, the cool guy in the school, but now it's just Steve Buscemi being like, "How you do, fellow kids?" Like no one cares. I mean, some people care, but those people, are they real people?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really nervous about it in general. It's gonna take something really really cool to kind of like break into this space and like kind of stay in there.
Yeah,
Um,
they just gotta do the Arc System Works has to do the Sony game. That's it. Stop with live service. Just make the fighting game. Just
exactly.
bring also. You know what I'll say real quick about Suicide Squad earlier? It reminds me of Prototype. Like it's that quality of gameplay.
I
It
was thinking
reminds me of
Crackdown.
like yeah, Crackdown, like a just nonsense game. Like oh, you're just in the world, you're collecting, you're destroying, but it's constant mayhem. There's no real sense or purpose. That's what it reminds me of, and that's not appealing to me. The reason why Arkham Knights really works is because when you're Batman, you really feel like Batman. It makes you feel like Batman, but you actually feel the weight to his punches. The villains are meaningful. The city is interesting. But in this, I just saw the same four grunts on the same top building every time on the damn trailer. I see what kind of game this is gonna be. It's not. It's not. It ain't it. It ain't it. It's definitely not game of the year. It's definitely not gonna be a contender for anything because it looks super mid. It looks super average. What is going on? Bring back Arkham.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, man, that is our thoughts on Sony's latest state of play.
Woof woof.
Um, yes, sir. So I mean, let's kind of get into the main topic of the show and what we're gonna close out the show with, and that is PlayStation VR2. So it launched on Tuesday, right? Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Um, with I believe like over 40 launch games, right?
It's like 25. There's like 40 launch, quote unquote, launch window games.
Right, launch window. Um, Yeah, so obviously tons of reviews are out, specifically talking about the hardware, talking about the games that launched with it. We got Gene obviously here to talk about his experience with PSVR 2, his full thoughts, what he thinks about it. So yeah, Gene, I mean kick it off. Like top level thoughts. What do you think of the hardware specifically? Is it as big of an improvement over PSVR 1 as I think we were all kind of like expecting and hoping it to be?
Yeah. The screen is fantastic. The hardware is more elegant. It has this more comfortable rubber grip that blocks out light. And uh, I had this issue where, like, if I took a deep breath, the lenses would get fogged. That's gone because there's more blocking it. Um, Being tethered to the PS5, you have more power, you can do cooler stuff. The controllers and that tracking stuff is way better. On PSVR, you had to kind of be pointed at the camera that was plugged into the console that was sit on the front of your TV, so you had to be right in front of your TV. Where this is kind of like free tracking, is you have a 15-foot cable connected to your PS5, and then you're pretty much free to roam around or sit down or do whatever you want. Um, but the hardware itself is more elegant
Nice,
for
nice.
sure.
Yeah, so I mean that was I mean especially at the price point. I think that was all the because correct me if I'm wrong, PSVR 1 when it launched, it was even in comparison to like other VR headsets, it felt like it was kind of like behind the curve just in terms of like the tech in comparison to everything else that was on the market.
Well,
Um
it just came out at the wrong time. So they when the Wii was the most popular thing on the planet, and believe it or not, there was a moment where the Wii was the most popular thing on the planet. The motion controls were really cool. So Sony added the Move controllers to PS3. I don't know if you guys remember, you could play Killzone 3 and Resistance 3
yep.
with the Move controllers and that gun thing. They then took that tracking technology uh, a few years later and kind of bolted it on top of their VR headset for the original PSVR. So it was outdated tracking technology when it came out.
Right, right. So I mean that's one of the key differences is that they actually have like dedicated controllers for this thing. So that's really really cool to see. Um, and the headset too, you're finding it like far more comfortable than PSVR 1. Especially there's only like one cord as well with this one, right?
Right, yeah, so I have a hardware review up where you can read all my thoughts on lordsofgaming.net, and I talk about the gaming library, and then I talk about a couple games individually. My A lot of my codes were provided by the publisher, so don't trust what I say. Uh, um, but I actually did buy a lot of games too. Yeah, no, it's a lot better for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, so I mean, tell us about like what you've been playing on it and and
Okay,
and what's been the standouts for you.
so I want to walk you guys through the entire experience, and we'll start with the bad because it started out very, very bad. Um, I take the headset out and I start playing games. I can navigate. So there's an article up now. There's some problems with the controllers at launch, and I'm going through the menus. I've configured everything, and I'm playing Horizon Call of the Mountain. Go through the first cutscene. The controllers don't work. There's a problem impacting thousands and thousands of people where if you like turn on your console with the DualShock for or the DualSense first and then try to use the VR controllers, like in game engine, your controllers don't work and it's like a nightmare to get them to work.
Oh wow.
So that first night I spent about 4 hours trying to get the controllers to work. I went to bed, gave up. I came out in the morning, turned it on, and they just worked. But there are thousands and thousands of people. I'm in two Facebook groups. One has 13,000 people. One has 18,000 people. I would say 50% of all of them are experiencing this controller issue where the controllers aren't working, and we're like working together to try different things. And people are occasionally reporting, "Oh, I got mine to work by doing this." And I do have an article on it on lordsofgaming.net. Uh, and it wasn't until the next day where I got the controllers working. Then that day, I'm playing Gran Turismo 7 in VR. I got the steering wheel plugged in, I got the headset on, and the console powers off. And I can't get the console to power back on. I do the traditional thing. A lot of computers, electronic devices have these built-in power protection features where you unplug the, if you ever have a problem with a computer that won't turn on, or electronic device that won't turn on, pull the power cable out, hold the power button down for 10 seconds. That clears it out. My PlayStation 5 came back. And I had to repair the database. So those two issues I had to fight through the first 2 days, and it was a little scary. But speaking on that, there's three problems. Let's start with the negative, then we'll get into the positive. There's three problems: controller issue, and I feel like I'm an early adopter, and it's not quite ready, and it can need some firmware updates. And the cost is $550 without Horizon. After tax, my Horizon bundle was $630. Then I spent $50 on the charging station. I'm probably going to spend another $30 to $50 finding a case for one when one comes out, because it doesn't come with a case. That is another, it's an elegant piece of hardware. If you guys seen the DualSense Edge controller, it comes in a nice case. There is no case for the VR headset, which really needs one, because if dust gets on the lenses, loose debris gets on the lenses, or intense natural sunlight gets on the lenses, it can damage it. It really needs a case, and at the price point, it should have came with a case. But Sony has not made a case, unlike PSVR 1 when it launched. There's no case to buy. You have to kind of find something third party. A lot of the aftermarket cases aren't coming out until next month.
That's so weird, considering it's a peripheral. Even the Steam Deck came with a case for like the second tier.
Right. Yeah. Right now it's sitting on my couch. If there was a case that came out today, I'd pay $100 for it, because you need it. You have to have it. And the fact that it didn't come in the box, and then you see the DualSense Edge comes with a case for whatever reason, it's annoying. It's obnoxious, and I'm disappointed in that regard. Right.
Are there any third parties that are releasing cases? That you know of right now? Next month.
So
okay.
Yeah, so like they don't have access to the hardware, so there's a lot of people on Amazon that are like, "Oh, our PSVR case is going to ship March 16th, whatever," right? And it's weird, random third party stuff, and of course you can get custom cases on Amazon that are fairly inexpensive, where you just like cut the foam out and put stuff in. I might do something like that. I probably have to do something this weekend, because it's just sitting around right now on the couch. So those are the three negative things. So the third is the price, right? So the Horizon bundle is $630. The charging station, which feels like a requirement, is $50. So that's $680, and I have one game. And now I already own Resident Evil and Gran Turismo, so those are free upgrades. I own some PSVR games that were free upgrades, and I bought a bunch, and I was given codes for a bunch. So it's really not a $550 commitment. It's really a $750 commitment or $700 commitment, because you don't just want to have one game. You want to have a couple games. You need to get a case, and the charging station is a requirement. It comes with one USB-C cable. You have to charge both controllers. So the docking station is $50. It comes with these cool little contact charging pads. There's these little pads you plug into the USB-C port on the controllers, and then they just sit nicely on the docking station, and you can pick them up and just put them back down, and they charge basically without having to plug them in. Really nice. So those are the three negative things. But then the positive going through it, Gran Turismo 7, fantastic, unbelievable. I don't like playing Gran Turismo 7 in the cockpit view. I feel like the view is kind of limited. I always play in like the third person view in any racing game. But when I put the VR headset on and I put you in the driver's seat view, there's something about being in VR where you have more visibility, because it feels like you're driving a real car. You can check your blind spots over your shoulder. You can see out the passenger side windows. You can see the mirrors. You feel like you have more visibility. It's absolutely amazing. And of course, Resident Evil Village in VR, they completely remade all the mechanics to where you like physically have to move the bolt action on the gun and load the magazine, and you physically stab with your hands. It is absolutely fantastic and way more terrifying in VR. I love it. The OLED screen kind of does a great job of bringing out how that game really looks with HDR. Absolutely love it.
Nice. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. I've been playing a bunch of indie games. some smaller games. And Horizon Call of the Mountain. I'm wrapping up that now. I'm rolling credits on that. A review will be up. Horizon Call of the Mountain takes place in between Horizon 1 and Horizon 2. You play as this guy who gets into some trouble, and it's like a climbing game. You know how like you'll climb with Aloy over stuff. It's that, but in first person, which is really cool in some capacity. It's about, although the game's about 7 hours long, um, and then the battles against the machines, the VR battles are epic. It was really cool to like fight a Thunderjaw or climb a Tall Neck in VR. Really cool.
No,
Is it
yeah,
a
I'm hearing some great stuff about that game. Besides, like all the climbing and stuff like that, for people like memed as Horizon Call of the Climb, which is
That's the whole game. That's the whole game. You
yeah.
climb and you climb and you climb, and then you climb to your next battle.
Is it a workout though? I've seen a couple live streams. You were like, damn, this is a workout.
If you're not in shape, it's a workout. Like you might spend 10 minutes with your arms above your heads as you're climbing. Uh,
Yeah.
there's that, but I don't really consider it a workout.
Now,
It's perfect for PlayStation fans.
well, we're at a PlayStation podcast. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's for us, bro. I'm not in shape.
I'm crazy. Do you find yourself sitting down more or standing up when playing games?
I prefer to stand up while I'm playing VR games. And I'm playing Horizon completely standing. I'm playing Resident Evil completely standing because you're standing in those games. Gran Turismo, I'll sit down obviously because you're sitting in the driver's seat. The kayak game, I'll sit down. That's really it because if you're standing in the game, I want to stand in my person to get that full immersion.
right, right.
Mm.
Yeah. Specifically about GT7, like that is like I feel like that's like Sony's been obviously promoting Horizon Call of the Mountain, for good reason. But I feel like GT7 for me is like the true system seller. Like that is the one game that I look at. Because I've been on the fence about GT7 forever. Like I've been watching a lot of I don't know if you're familiar with his channel, Gene, but Super GT. I've been watching a lot of just like him commentating over his own races and stuff like that. And like I've just been really on the fence about wanting to get into GT7, but like watching this guy play, I just know it's gonna be really overwhelming as someone who hasn't played GT since like the PS2 era. But like I look at this in VR and I'm like, God damn, like this is like a true, like I feel like this is like the true like generational leap from PSVR 1 to PSVR 2. Like this is the true system seller. So like again, this is the one title that I look at and I'm like, man, dude, like I want to get VR just for this game, man.
Right. So on the original PSVR, you had Drive Club VR, which I got incredibly sick. The game looked awful. And then Gran Turismo Sport, there was a VR mode, but you really just got like a tour of the car. It wasn't like the full game. And that's kind of where things change with the PS5 and PSVR and all the power there. You're playing the full game of Gran Turismo
Yeah.
7. The only thing you can't do is local co-op because obviously the VR screen is going to take up everything.
Right.
But it's the full game.
That's crazy.
And I think they do something with the foveated rendering because while I'm playing and I look like out of the corner of my eye, the textures look awful. But when I take a screenshot, I do have a review or kind of my thoughts on GT7 up on lordsofgaming.net. When I look at a screenshot that I've taken, it looks totally fine. It looks like I'm playing the normal game. But I do think that there's some magic there with the foveated rendering where textures you're not looking at are like PS3 quality textures, like the grass and the fabric on the suit. Other than that, for the most part, the game looks amazing. It's the full game. However, I would be nervous if someone was like, I have to play Gran Turismo 7 in VR. I'm going out and buying a VR headset just for that. And they spend the money in the VR headset just for that, and they get home and they get sick in VR.
Right.
I do think that is going to happen to some people. I would not make Gran Turismo 7 your very first VR game. I would make it your second VR game. I would get as comfortable as you can get in VR before you do something like that. Um, I didn't get nauseous, but let's put it this way: I could see how someone could get nauseous. And
Definitely.
It was so cool going down Daytona, and like Daytona is the racetrack in Florida, and it has these huge NASCAR banks. So like you're like sideways almost as you're driving, and it was so cool. It was amazing. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm just imagining that right now, and yeah, what you're describing, the sideways, like almost like you're driving like up on like a wall almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that has to be insane in VR. Um, are you so experiencing GT7 in VR specifically, is this like, is it one of those cases where like you never want to go back to like the regular console version? Has it just been that much more of like an eye-opening experience having it in VR for you?
No, I would play that game either way. To me, putting on the VR headset and using a racing wheel feels like you bought a $20,000 arcade to put in your living room.
Right,
You know, and
right.
that's why I'm okay with the price, because this something like this would have cost $15,000 to $20,000 to build a racing sim like this in VR a couple years ago, and it really feels like something you would imagine from your childhood, that like this huge machine is now in your living room, and it's really just a headset in your console.
Yeah.
Um, it's absolutely amazing, but I'm okay playing Gran Turismo either way. Um, I'm so you have to like move your coffee table and plug in the headset, and I'm okay just casually playing Gran Turismo for 15-20 minutes while I'm waiting for something. It's a good game for that on the couch, just picking up the controller. But I that's not to take away anything that they've done with the VR here. I absolutely love it, and I could play it every day in VR
Right,
too.
right.
I
Um,
think you should get into Gran Turismo 7. I think it's on sale for $30 right now in Best Buy.
yeah, I really, really want to. Like I said, I've been watching a lot of this dude play it, and like I'm typically not a racing guy, but there's just something about it that's just like really, really like calling my attention. Even though I know like I'm gonna be bad at it, like I don't know, I still really want to get into it.
It's on
Um,
sale, $39.99 at Best Buy, $30 off this week.
oh, I know. But yeah, so what would have been, so I mean, you've mentioned obviously RE Village, VR, GT7, and Horizon Call of the Mountain. Have there been any other standouts or games that you want to like call out?
Um,
So what I'm saying is, have you played What the Bat?
yes, I did play What the Bat. I think it's about 2 hours long, and it's a fun little indie game where your arms are bats and you have to hit things. And it almost makes me wish it was a VR baseball game, because that would be so cool. But
Yeah.
and I think that's the one game you could do in VR. Um, yeah, no, it's a fun little indie game. It is like 2 hours long, but it was a good time. I don't remember how much it cost to tell you if it's worth it or not. But yeah, that was fun. I'm trying to think of Devolver published a game called Tentacler, where you play as an octopus, and that's
Uh, I've
very
seen
similar
that.
to What the Bat. Yeah, where you have the two octopus arms and you go through a little adventure game. It's much longer than What the Bat, and that's been a lot of fun. Trying to think about what else have I played. The Interesting enough, Industrial Light and Magic and Oculus made a game called Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge. That's an action adventure first person shooter kind of puzzle game. I played that. That's really cool. That has like an upgraded version that's been ported to PSVR 2. Very interesting that that's there, because that is by Oculus. So there's at least two. This is what I find interesting. There's two published Oculus games that are going to be on PSVR 2, Tales from Galaxy's Edge and Beat Saber when it comes out. And it almost feels like Sony traded them Iron Man for that. It really kind of feels that way. It's like, why isn't Resident Evil 4 coming to PSVR? Why are they paying to have a VR mode in Resident Evil 4 made when they could just get the Resident Evil 4 that Oculus has?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. I wonder, yeah, I wonder what, like, you want to like a peek behind the curtain, like, what exactly were the business dealings to get those titles on? Like, because I didn't know. So, Beat Saber is actually published by them. Is it?
Yeah, so this is one of the kind of the shortcomings of PSVR 2 is, much like that they've been fighting on the Xbox front. Facebook is acquiring all these small VR developers, and it makes you wonder what's going to happen with First Contact, because the Firewall Ultra is like the best first person shooter. It's like a Call of Duty for VR. It makes me wonder what's going to happen with them, and I'd like to imagine that Sony's going to acquire them at some point. But yeah, I mean, there are very few independent VR developers left because all the good ones are being acquired by Oculus,
It
minus
it
the
just
mall. Huh?
well, really quickly, it just feels like after they kind of like camouflage walk, for whatever reason, it feels like First Contact is just like one of those that like you can't let them walk away or get
Right,
snatched up
right.
by Facebook, especially because like you would have to imagine that they don't cost a ton, right? So like I don't know, those are one of those things where you kind of hope that they would acquire them because I feel like you do need with especially with London studios seemingly looking like they're stepping away from VR, that you do want a team that is like solely like you do want your VR solely dedicated VR team, I feel like first party wise.
Yeah, absolutely for sure. I'm trying to think of what else did I play here.
Well,
No
I have
Man's
a question for you. If
Sky.
it's back to an earlier point you made, um, what's a good first PSVR game for people that are just jumping into this?
Something like Job Simulator or Vacation Simulator, something like Moss or Moss 2. I think Moss 2 was my VR game of the year last year. It was like it's like going to be one of the last PSVR games to come out. There's a bundle for PSVR 2. Both Moss and Moss 2 have been ported to PSVR 2. You get both games for $40. I think that's a really good deal. Pistol Whip is also really cool too. Pistol Whip is a gallery shooter that's rhythm based. So like you like shoot enemies to the beat. But Moss and Moss 2, those are platformers. A lot of people are talking about like, oh, where's my Astrobot? But Moss is an incredible platformer as well. It's not as intricate or as crazy as Astrobot, which I do wish we had to. But Moss is a great platformer as well. That is a great place to start. Um, Horizon Call of the Mountain's not a bad place to start. They did an amazing job getting all the little details of that game right.
Oh, good, good. Cause yeah, cause that's their headliner essentially. That's their quote unquote system seller for VR.
Yeah, I just wouldn't start with Gran Turismo 7 because you can get sick.
What about some like No Man's Sky? Because I know that got like a big update as well.
Yeah, No Man's Sky. That you can now play the PS5 version in VR as opposed to the PS4 version. But No Man's Sky is another game that's not on Quest. It's on PC VR, but it's not on Quest. Where this is a feather in the cap for Sony, and you can play the full game of No Man's Sky in VR. So while the PlayStation VR library is full of Quest ports right now, it also has these exclusives in AAA bangers. And I don't think No Man's Sky is a AAA banger, but Gran Turismo Resident Evil is. Horizon Call of the Mountain, it being 7 hours, I don't know if I would call it AAA, but it's published by Sony, so it has that AAA budget. Um, and so it's kind of not fair to call it like an indie game or a smaller game because it's being made by a multi-billion-dollar company. Um, and that's kind of the point that I would make. Like, yeah, you can go get a Quest, but those Quest games are here for the most part, and there's AAA bangers on the PlayStation headset, which really, I mean, as long as they do get Half-Life Alyx, it's going to be the premier place to play VR games. The only thing I would say is wellness games are missing. I really liked Box VR. That's a game where I lost some weight doing a lot of exercise. That game went from being a simple boxing game to having on the Quest. It has all these layers of workouts and exercises. It's like a VR Peloton game. It's so cool, and I think it's free to play too. It's amazing. I'm really disappointed that that's not on PSVR 2. There's no wellness game of any kind when there's probably a handful, and there's no community hub games. And I'm assuming they're coming, but it's really disappointing that Sony didn't work on anything. I always kind of like to imagine in my head that a Media Molecule was doing something in this capacity, but there's games like Rec Room and VR Chat that are on other platforms, and Quest has something they've made called Horizons where I've went there with my friends and you hang out in like a lobby and you can play table tennis and like foosball, but then like you can watch a courtside NBA game.
Man, they got to bring back PlayStation Home. Remember that?
Right, yeah. So there really needs to be like a PlayStation Home type of thing. Although there's been some issues with sexual harassment and harassment,
Mhm.
so that now you need to hire like VR cops
Moderators and all
yeah,
that.
and it gets kind of unwielding, and you have to manage this thing that VR spaces since you have to kind of put a lot of controls in place to get people to act appropriately. This VR chat does get a little crazy, and Rec Room can get a little crazy. But I'm disappointed those community games are not here. I'm assuming something's coming. Rec Room's going to be here any minute, I guess. But
Anything on the horror side that's good on the VR on the PSVR?
well, absolutely, Resident Evil Village. Like you
Mm.
have to play this game in this way. The HDR on the screen is fantastic, so it's all there. Getting picked up by Lady Demetrius was just so cool to
Ooh.
happen all over again.
Oh, don't
I
tell me
bet.
this, Gene. Don't tell
I
me, man.
bet
I gotta
that
save
would be
my money.
gateway to VR. That would be my gateway. It'd be the Village.
Yeah,
You
same.
guys don't understand. You don't press a button to stab with someone. You take your arm physically in the real world and you grab your other arm to pull the knife out of the sleeve and you
Whoa.
stab someone with a stabbing motion in your hands to
my
stab the people that are attacking you. You open your coat with your left arm if you're right-handed. You open your coat with your left arm, you reach in with your right hand, you physically grab the flashlight and you point the flashlight around with your arm in real time. And the
Wow.
lighting is just so good. I've got a write-up and you look at the images look so dark and awful because the HDR is just really not captured in the screenshots. But the lighting is you are there. It's so cool to relive this all over again in VR. And I do know where all the spots are. I played through that game. I know exactly what's going to happen. But it's still the immersion brings back the sense of horror.
Oh man,
Oh,
that's that. I mean, that's good for me at least because that was
Same.
gonna be my gateway to VR because I love Village so much, and I can't even imagine. Did you get to the baby part yet or no?
Ooh.
No.
Oh
man.
my god, that has to be
No.
like anxiety inducing. And I think like for VR, like you always have those hallmark like genres, you know, like racing or horror that are the kinds of games that the more immersed you are, the more quality it has, you know, versus an action game or like how Final Fantasy 15 did VR for a minute, like weirdly, and it was like you were knocked as like teleporting from side to side, and it was like really clunky and weird.
Fishing game? It was like a fishing game.
There was a fishing game, but there was also like a mission, like where you actually
Oh yeah, with the
played VR
behemoth.
fighting
Yeah.
with the behemoth. It was weird, but the fishing one makes sense. Like Final Fantasy 15 had a lot of great things, but listen, fishing, that was my gateway to fishing. That was where I was like, oh, every RPG needs to have fishing. This is the mini game. This is what you need. Damn, horror. I'm excited then because imagine if they ever do like a Dead Space horror like VR type deal.
Yeah. It was really cool just like reaching down to your hip, grabbing the pistol, and then putting it up to your sights and like looking down the sights of a gun and firing at these zombies' heads. It was just so cool.
God damn it, Macho! This is
Remember the huh?
this is what might make me buy it
I
eventually.
know, dude. I feel you on that. Just hearing Gene talk about it, and I already have FOMO, but now I'm just like, damn, man.
Remember the scene in the beginning where you're like, there's the tall grass, and then the werewolf guys are there, and you gotta
Yeah.
oh, that's so cool in VR.
Oh, Doug. Man, I could lose a couple fingers today to get this VR device. I think I could do it.
Hey, yo, bro.
The other game I wanted to mention was Dark Pictures Switchback,
Ooh,
because
is
That's
that
coming
the
out next
Unreal
month.
one?
Yeah, it's on rails. It's coming out next month. I don't have a
Okay.
code yet.
What was the first one they did? Circus something.
Rush
right?
of Blood, I think it was.
Rush of Blood.
Yeah.
Okay, that was also an on rails one, right?
Yeah.
I never played it.
I mean, the clips themselves look incredible. If you
What
want,
is it like
yeah.
a House of the Dead type deal or?
I mean, I don't think it's House of the Dead. I think it's like as much of a horror roller coaster as you can expect. But I mean, it's from what people say that if you have a place in VR, you need to play Rush of Blood, and these are the same guys, right? Gene making this game Switchback. VR.
Yeah, it's the same guys. And this is how I feel about horror games, right? Like I don't want a kiddie horror game. I don't want a BS horror game. I don't want a horror game on rails. That's not going to do anything for me. I'm not going to get scared playing that game. Resident Evil changed, like playing Resident Evil 7 on PSVR changed how I view and appreciate horror games where I got back into playing horror games because they never did anything for me. I didn't buy Resident Evil 7 at launch. I didn't buy it until the VR, until I got the first PSVR. I didn't like Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6. And now it's got me going back and like revisiting all of them, and then I got Resident Evil 7 at launch, or Resident Evil Village at launch, and that is even way better in VR. But I really need a true horror game. I don't need this on rails stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. I think just having Resident Evil 8 VR is like a big thing. Then that's really cool to hear. At least that the one game that I was like definitely looking at is tentatively like one of the best ones to release in the launch window for PSVR, too.
Yeah, and there's so many Steam games or PC focused games like Poppy's Playtime, where if you port that to PSVR, I feel like that will work really well because of the whole like stick to the like objects and pulling them aside and solving puzzles that way. You're very immersed that way. But yeah, I agree. I don't like the whole on the rails thing because you're not really engaging with anything. It's not
Right.
not pushing you. You know what would really work, Gene? Outlast. That would be horrifying. That would be horrible. I would probably not buy it for like the longest time because I know I would have probably like 10 heart attacks playing it. Because there's one thing to pull out a Glock and be like, mess up a vampire lady. But to only have a camera and have night vision and cannot fight and it's only running, now that's a VR experience. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And
Yeah,
about
I know Jay likes those.
about the FOMO stuff, I think the cost is a little too high for PSVR. I think it's more of a reflection of that they wish they charged $600 for PS5s at launch, so that they could do a price cut now, or bundle in some sort of game. I think they're really disappointed. They saw these things selling for $1,500 that first year, and while they were taking like a $20 loss, I think that there is going to be between now and the holiday. I think there's going to be $100 price discrepancy on what it costs now versus what it costs then, and I think it's going to be $50 off the price and $50 worth of games in a bundle.
What do you think? So you've been quiet for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it all depends on how well this thing sells, right? If this thing is flying off shelves, if they do manage to sell the 3 million units that they're planning to make between now and whatever, then like, do they really have any reason to cut the price at that point if they are flying off the shelves?
Spoiler alert: it's not selling. It's not selling.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Which would be surprising because not surprising really because like it's a peripheral, it's expensive, but people are getting their tax returns right now, so they're feeling pretty good and they're holding off on buying this. Yeah.
I saw a lot of people in my groups, my communities going, "Oh, I got the FOMO. I couldn't do this without you guys, so I went out and bought one today." And you can't, like in the United States, you cannot go into a store and buy one. You can only go to PlayStation Direct. And as far as I know, unless that changed in the past week or two, and PlayStation Direct did not sell out of these. They have never sold out of these.
Yeah, yeah. I don't imagine that they will either.
So I don't think they've hit 1 million yet because they probably have 1 million for launch.
Right, right.
Nah.
What do you think in terms of like support going forward? Because I was watching, I don't know if you watched Kind of Funny's sort of coverage on PSVR2, but they've been like so like cynical and pessimistic and saying that, oh, Sony's gonna drop it, they're not gonna support it, and blah blah blah. What do you think, like first party and third party support wise? How do you think this thing ultimately like shapes out? Like, do you think it will be like third parties will actually support this thing? Do you think Sony themselves will have like a team of Sony type studio release a new Astrobot, or like what do you think that is going to look like going forward?
Well, I've been covering PSVR since its inception, just like Kind of Funny. So we're both coming from the same place, and I tend to agree with them. Sony needs a miracle right now. They need a miracle game right now that catches the world on fire. Here's the thing about the problem with the 1 million units sold or the 3 million units sold. If I'm Capcom and I'm making Resident Evil 9, and it's going to cost me $50 million to support PSVR 2 on Resident Evil 9. Sony, you have to give me, I don't know, $48 million, $40 million to make this PSVR 2 compatible, or we're not going to do that. We're not going to spend that money because we're not going to make that money back. Because, I mean, they'd probably have to sell a couple million copies just to cover the costs, right? So that's why you're seeing a lot of AA stuff, indie stuff, and Quest ports because it's expensive to make this stuff, and you need somebody there to buy it. And if there's a million people on PSVR right now, you're probably going to have 10% of them buy your game. And I'm sure the attach rate on Resident Evil Village, Horizon Call of the Mountain, and Gran Turismo 7 is high. I'm sure it's very high. I'm sure it's much higher than 10%, and I'm sure it's higher than an attach rate that Sony's never seen before on those three things. However, 10% of a million is still not enough to justify the costs. So Sony's going to have to keep spending money on this, and what we're seeing is a lack of long-term commitment from Sony. Now, about a year or two ago, I theorized that Insomniac had VR teams at their studio that were making AAA PSVR 2 games because when Sony acquired them, they had made like 6 VR games or something like that in their history. Like they were there at VR very early on, and they were putting out like 1 VR game a year, 2 VR games a year by a team. There's no indication that they're working on VR. There's no indication they're hiring on VR, and there's every indication in the world that those people have been promoted out of VR and absorbed into like a Miles Morales team or a Wolverine team or a Spider-Man 2 team or have left the studio entirely. There's no reason to believe anymore that Insomniac's making AAA VR. And I don't remember what Shu said, but Shu had said something about not having first party studios devoted to VR and having them devoted to just AAA PS5 games. So then that brings up London. We always thought that London was going to make a game for PSVR 2 after Blood and Truth. Blood and Truth, great PSVR game. The assumption was that they were going to make a AAA VR game. That has been confirmed to be not true. They are not making a VR game at all. They're not hiring for VR. They're not working on VR. They're making a live service PS5 game. Then there was the new studio that Sony had closed in London near Media Molecule that was definitely confirmed to be working on a AAA VR game that was closed. So who's making these games? Probably nobody, right?
That's concerning actually. It's an interesting point, but so continue, you're gonna say?
There is Twisted Metal. I forget if it was like a job posting or something, but there was some indication there that like that, for instance, will have like a VR mode similar to like what GT is doing.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. Maybe maybe, but don't forget, Fire Sprite is making Gran Turismo, making a Twisted Metal. They made Horizon Call of the Mountain. They are predominantly a VR studio. They have the survival horror game that was on the leaked sheet.
Right.
That is probably. They made a couple of survival horror games. I have their wiki right here. They made the Persistence.
Yeah.
For PlayStation VR,
right?
Yeah, for PlayStation VR, that was a survival horror game. So that's probably what they're doing is a new game in the survival horror genre that's VR. The job posting said VR is a plus, right? So if you're going to go in there and work on Twisted Metal and you don't know VR, whatever, fine. But if you happen to know VR, we're also a VR studio, so you'll be able to help with this other game that we have going. I don't believe that that's an indication that Twisted Metal is going to support VR.
Interesting. I think that would be awesome if it was able to. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to like run through the other. Well, and I really want to get your opinion on this too, because like it's almost like a double-edged sword where it's like I don't know if I want like a team work like Naughty Dog working on a VR game in conjunction with like their next big IP, but at the same time, like yeah, you absolutely do need first-party support to be there. Otherwise, it's like what is going to differentiate this VR headset from like all the others? So it's like I don't know. It's almost like a catch-22. Like, what do you do in that situation, right? Because like when you're London studio, it's like it's very exciting, at least in my opinion, that they're working on like a big like PS, arguably their biggest game to date, right? Is going to be their next title. But at the same time, it's like, oh man, but that kind of sucks that like they were like the they were like the premier PlayStation VR studio. So and you take that away, so it's like, what do you do to replace that? So it's like, I don't know, what do you do in that situation, right?
Here's what I would do: is I would find somebody that's going to remaster Killzone or Resistance and add VR support. First-person VR support is fairly easy. It's not complicated. You're not reinventing the wheel. There's a number of first-person shooters here because you kind of want to come up with how does it play in VR. Well, first-person shooters already figured out. There's just that deeper sense of immersion and they use hand motion controls. So I think that can be done, and that's what I would do is find a third-party team to do that. Um, and I think any first-person shooters you're working on, you have to wonder how it works if you can incorporate VR. I think you get out Firewall Ultra this summer, you get out Half-Life Alyx the second half of the year. That takes you through this year. So then maybe you have Resident Evil 4 next year, and then one or two other games after that. And as long as Sony can do 2 to 3 games per year that are those Sony exclusive bangers, when it can just be a game that just has VR support baked in, like the game that you're already making that's a first-person shooter, add VR support to that. That's all they have to do. Then all of the AA stuff is going to come on its own, and I think that they could get away with that. But they're going to have to do some weird stuff, and I think they're going to have to be more aggressive the first 3 years. Like I honestly would be finding a third-party team to do a Resistance collection.
Right.
Yeah, so someone that's like outside looking at this VR stuff and possibly think of like adopting one of these machines. The first thing that comes to mind, like what will make me really want to buy one, was Resident Evil 8. That's already like a check mark there. Obviously, Final Fantasy with Square is not going to something like that because that's just my take. But for anything first party related, something from The Last of Us in VR, that would be dope. Astrobot would be cool. Like there's, again, like you said, Resistance and all that stuff. Like all that stuff that would appeal to me personally as a PlayStation fan. Be like, oh yeah, this is definitely something I need to jump on because we see the dedication there. But it is concerning to hear that we don't really know who or who isn't working on a PSVR title, which is why a PlayStation Showcase is like so prominent right now and why it's on the top of people's minds.
Yeah,
Wasn't
and
there- What? Sorry, wasn't there a LA Noir VR ones?
yeah.
Okay, just figuring out if, like, but that was that Rockstar or not? Was it?
It was Rockstar, but I'm sure they outsourced the development.
Okay, got it. What were you guys saying?
And a game like Gran Turismo 5, they have a great relationship with Take-Two. Take-Two loves making games for Sony. They're basically attached at the hip financially in some weird parental form. Grand Theft Auto 5 could get a re-release on PSVR 2. That would be a great way for them to bring new life to that game. Sell copies. It's already got a first-person mode. Like, why not? Go ahead and do it. You can outsource that development, and it probably costs very minimal, and you would make a ton of money on that. Like, that makes sense. And I think the library gets them to the summer. The launch library, it's very good. To and through the summer. You add in Firewall, then you have Half-Life Alyx or something else at the end of the year. But now what does that second year look like? And they have to get more creative and do some really cool stuff. And hopefully we see something at the showcase. And I something like a Grand Theft Auto 5 could be in the cards for that.
Do you think it's more on ingenuity with the VR like mechanics and what you can do in VR gaming, or it's more just let's just slap on one of our IPs and do it our way, sort of way that you think is going to sell the device?
Well, you need like VR experts, and it costs money to do these things, and how much money you're gonna make, and who's gonna buy it. And a game like, let's take Grand Theft Auto 5, right? So you have to redesign all the gun mechanics like they did for Resident Evil Village, where you're physically taking a gun out of your holster, or you're using eye tracking to go through a weapon wheel like really quickly. At the turn and the movements, I think a third party team that's really good with VR could come in and do something like that, and it's fairly inexpensive. Maybe like $10-20 million, and that would make 10-20 million. You charge $10 for a Grand Theft Auto VR patch. That would make $10 million in an hour. So it's stuff like that. But you have to hope that that they're okay doing that with maybe Grand Theft Auto 6 coming a year or two away. Maybe they don't even want to touch that game at all.
That might be huge if they had like a VR mode for that game. That would be huge.
And I could get any strategy game and any city builder game and any first person shooter can be easily turned over to VR.
Okay. Yeah. No, that
And
makes sense.
most platformers. And most platformers.
Yeah. It's a matter of like what's really the driving force. Is it something like a new IP or a regular IP? Like I to be honest, I have no idea what you think would sell, not sell, but more like get people to jump into that space, that VR space, whether it be a new IP or something that Sony brings back, like SOCOM or something.
You need like a Fortnite of VR. That's really, I hate to say it, but you need like a game that like 10 to 15-year-olds are like foaming at the mouth to hang out with their friends in, like Fortnite. You really need that.
That'll be tough though, because VR games generally are better when they're shorter,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and then I know like the sort of like the
For
take
now.
on those live service games that you could play them for from dusk till dawn, and you still have stuff to do, or you have time left, or not won't be exhausted. In VR, it's like a whole nother ball game there.
Yeah, and as we know, like, it doesn't have to be good. It just has to go viral. It has to be popular.
That's so true. Yeah, that's fact. That's fact.
Yeah, I mean, VR is still like hardware-wise, it's still at the point where it is. You need to consider comfort. It's not something that is just seamless. You can put on and be hours and hours on it and just invested in
Right.
it. Which it is a cyberpunk type deal where you just put on a little thing on your side and like immediately like the Google glasses type deal, where it's just like like on your eyes. It's nothing bulky, heavy weighing down your head. But I think until we get to that point, experiences have to be very bite-sized until eventually you can have, I sometimes see on TikTok people that have like these whole setups in their homes. It's a whole room and they have, the pad and they have the fake gun and they're like playing like PUBG VR. And they have to actually run for the character to run. They have to turn to the sides to actually, but to get to that point, like that's a full-on investment, and that's like thousands of dollars you're investing at that point. So, what I want from VR eventually is to be able to not think too much about how uncomfortable I'm gonna be. Kind of like how video games are. I just pick up the controller and I play. Well, I just put on what's the $1,000 one? The Hive. What's it called?
The Valve one costs about $1,000, and then there's the HTC Vive that's like a pro version. It's like $1,000.
So that one, it's smaller, but again, the function is not the same. It's not necessarily geared towards an experience like Call of the Mountain or Resident Evil Village. But until it gets to that point where it's that small and compact, but with quality of an OLED 4K display, I'm not too sold on it. We're still like in VR is fighting its footing, I feel like, and people are trying to crack that code. But I think like a Fortnite of VR, like what would that look like? Is it just a hub? Is it a shooter? What is it? Like what would you make?
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah, if Sony and Epic
genre
worked out
is it?
something on VR for Fortnite.
Mm-hmm. Like what genre is it even to make a VR game last 10 years?
It definitely has community hub elements like Rec Room and VR Chat, because those games have probably been around for 10 years themselves. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Fortnite, but a community hub. And I thought it was really cool to go to Horizons, and there's some friends from my Facebook group, and then we're sitting courtside at an NBA game. Like, I thought that stuff was cool, and like I never thought that I would be doing something like that in gaming, because I don't really like community games. I don't really care about Fortnite, and I don't really care about live meta events inside of games like concerts. But that was really cool.
True.
So, Junior, you telling me that we're gonna get back PlayStation Home from PS3 days?
We're gonna have a condo by the beach and play some pool. No, I'll be honest, like a hub where you can play like axe throwing or bowling or that type of deal, where it's like the quality of like a Wii Sports type deal, restored but like improved, obviously.
Listen to my pitch. Listen to my pitch, right? It pisses me off that these conversations aren't happening at Sony right now. But you come over to my home, and I've got 3 bedrooms because I'm 4 rooms because I'm ranked 4 on the PlayStation. What's that? The new rewards program they have, right? I'm level 4 on that, so I have 4 rooms. So I've now laid out my VR space like in Animal Crossing almost, and you go over to and the game's free to play, but I've spent $20 on shirts and wall coloring. You go into my trophy room and you can pick up my trophies on a game by game basis. You go into my rewards program and you can see all the different rewards I have. You go into my game library and you see, and then we can compare game libraries, or I can go to your space and see your trophies. And maybe I've got a game of like Gallagher asteroids or something like that you can play, or maybe it's foosball or ping pong, and maybe I have ping pong, but maybe you have foosball, or a classic like PS1 game I have in my lobby, but then in your lobby you have a classic PS2 game.
Oh, okay. And you can make it like a VR couch co-op where there's a room where it's like a living room, and like Macho and I are in our houses. You know, he's in Connecticut, I'm in Florida, and I go into this room and I see his model. We sit down, we play some Crash, like in Uncharted 4, but we're couch co-oping, but it's VR.
And something like that would kill, and it's so inexpensive, and Media Molecule could be doing it.
Oh man, how does that sound, Macho?
That sounds that's what I'm thinking of. Before, when Jimmy, you mentioned something that needs to go viral, the first thing I thought of was indies, because PlayStation's really good at catching those weird and eclectic sort of indies. I mean, last year they had Stray, and that for some reason or another was on Game of the Year awards, but it still caught like a lot of eyes, and it got a lot of attention to PlayStation consoles. So something like that in VR would be really cool for like those like weird indies, which we saw a little bit of already. But what you guys are talking about, that's just like next level stuff. Yeah.
And let's say you get a platinum on a game, you can now have that aesthetic in your room. So let's say you beat Returnal, you can have aspects of your virtual hub look like an overgrown alien planet, or if it's Stray, you have like a cyberpunk corner and there's like a bar. Or if you beat Stray and you have the platinum, you have a little cat roaming around, which is the cat from Stray.
There's a lot of potential here.
If there's trophies and you can see the trophies, I can go into Macho's room, grab the seafood platinum trophy, and throw it on the ground. That's beautiful.
It literally checks all the boxes. It's live service. It's cost effective. It's inexpensive to make something like that. You're not doing gameplay loops. We're not making God of War. We're literally making rooms like Animal Crossing. It has microtransactions in it that all tie back into the rewards program that they're trying to push, and the trophies they're trying to push, and the PlayStation identity that they're trying to push.
And have little mini games outside, like Animal Crossing. You can have a little bit of farming over here. Maybe you can, like Disney's Dreamlight Valley, you can have your own currency or your own little market, like in RuneScape.
Yeah. What makes you think that I want to see your dumb character in VR though? I just want to ask that question.
Hey, yo, I'm gonna have Stella from Final Fantasy Versus as my thing, so you can.
Oh really? So you're catfishing me now. All right, so now
Yeah. I'm gonna be Lady Dimitrescu in that. Like, I'm coming in, Macho. I need to, crouch down because I'm so tall.
And yeah, he's got a Resident Evil themed apartment, which maybe you don't want to go to, but when you get there, you find out he's got Killzone on the PSP sitting there on his coffee table as his play game.
Man!
You come to my house and it's like Boogie, the PS2.
You go into Soul's room and it's like a whole coliseum of cars destroying each other.
And S&M models there. Yeah.
And he's just playing Destruction All-Stars all day in there. It's just a coliseum in there. What the hell? My man woke up. Yeah, dude, man, Gene, now you got me like thinking like this is possible. That sounds possible because it just sounds like it's just VR. It's just making it VR because that sounds possible in just a game setting. Make it VR.
Yeah, why aren't they doing something like that? It's so stupid. Even having our own little I thought for sure when they did the PlayStation Stars thing, I'm like, oh, this is gonna tie into PlayStation Home that they're doing for VR. But like,
Mhm.
why aren't they doing something? It's so frustrating. And I think the answer is I don't know if they have anyone there that even can is gonna work on a VR.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, did it London Studio like work on PS Home back in the day?
Yeah, but they're not doing VR anymore. They're doing
Exactly.
that AAA game. They've
Exactly.
already said that.
So I'm saying that like it. So yeah, you can't even have them to work on something theoretical like this. So yeah.
Me personally, I would have Media Molecule do it, and you know, and I think it's easy. I really think it's
Do
easy.
do you think like because I was watching that Psychonauts 2 documentary and like obviously Psychonauts 2 was like their big game, but like they also were talking about like they're doing like two other like smaller projects and they kind of like want to return to that version of themselves where they can work on smaller bite-sized games. Um so and like I don't know, I just like in my own head I was like making a correlation to like Media Molecule and like do you think it's possible that like they have dreams going on, but like that they can be working on like something like tearaway sized, like right now as well, or are they just solely focused on dreams?
We are never going to get that Media Molecule documentary, but oh my god, do I want it? They haven't done anything in like friggin' 10, 15 years.
I was
While
gonna say
Sony's
they're
closing
still
all these
doing
studios.
dreams.
People are still doing games in Dream. Have you seen the projects? That
No, not
people
just
do?
people. I'm talking about the Media Molecule themselves, man.
No, they're like Bethesda. They make a game and then let people make the game for them.
That's not all right. Let's not get carried away. Molecule is pretty dope, but like
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, and you're a fan of Dreams, Soul. You've said it bad in the podcast.
I'm just saying, man. Like I would really love to see them do something like while they still have a dedicated team like keeping dreams up and running that they do make something just like a little 5 hour like little platformer on the side. I think
Yeah.
would be really cool for
Or
them.
like the little community hub room where you have all your trophies on display and people can walk into your house in VR.
That should
Yes.
that honestly that yeah. If
Bro,
they don't
boys
do that
night.
within this PSVR 2's lifetime, that's like a huge miss.
Bro, you can literally have, oh, hey, babe, I'm gonna go with the boys. Okay, go into your room. All right, boys, I'm here. Put up the VR. All right, let's play some Crash, baby. Where we hang out today? We hang out in Soul's Destruction All-Stars theme. All right, let's go. Let's go. Dude, turn on the damn car, Soul. There's so many cats in here.
Pre-order Final Fantasy 16 to get the Final Fantasy 16 statue for your PlayStation Home.
Oh, don't tell me
Oh,
that.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Oh,
I already
man.
want Yoshi P working on a VR for Final Fantasy 14, let alone that. Jeez, man.
Macho will get like a Yoshi piece like picture in his room, just like as a shrine. You get a shrine just for him, like yes, the savior.
So this is my Yoshi P shrine. He's I pray to it 5 times a day. All that sounds really fun. Honestly, I think VR2 has a steep road ahead for sure, but hopefully the future is more bright than it is dim.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, VR in general, there's a lot of potential in there. It's a technology that hasn't been explored fully. Like it's like how video games now, like we've gotten to the point where people like photorealism is not the thing now. It's just innovation and creativity and execution. I think VR it's still in its toddler years, if even.
Yeah.
It's still finding its footing.
Yeah. Speaking of all that stuff too, what's actually showing on our screen right now? Give us Power Wash Simulator in VR. That'd be dope.
I was about to say that, bro. Oh my god! Like, this is crazy. Anything VR simulators, job simulator, power
Yeah,
wash
that's what
simulator.
G was saying before. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, and G mentioned that, or vacation was it the other one? Vacation.
Vacation and Job Simulator, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's crazy that we escape reality to do the things that we do in reality, but we just don't spend energy.
And
That's
the
crazy.
monotonous stuff too, like cooking simulators.
Well, Job Simulator is a joke. It's a joke. It's a total prank. You're not actually doing a job. You're like throwing donuts in a briefcase.
But that's amazing. The idea behind it, that it's like it caters to the human condition. That's like, I don't want to do my job. I'm just gonna mess around, and it's simple. Cooking simulator? Oh my god. Make a fine steak online? Oh yes, sir.
Yeah,
And then burn
what's
the one I'm actually making.
what's cool is that like all these simulators actually are coming to PlayStation. Like the one I saw before was like a beer brewing simulator. I was like, that actually sounds pretty fun. Like that in VR would be pretty dope.
Oh, mixology. Can make some cocktails and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man.
Sounds cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah, that was our Gene. Thank you so much for giving us the inside experience on PSVR 2. I'm sure this was very like insightful for people who may be on the fence or just like overall thinking about jumping into the platform. So, really, thank you for all that, man.
No problem.
So yeah, man. Let us start with these outros before we get out of here. For that, I want to remind everyone to go ahead and like the podcast, share it out. If you have not liked the podcast, then the word that I called you earlier in the podcast still applies to you now. Yeah, let's get started with these outros. Gene, once again, thank you, man. Where can people find you? And you got anything going on this past week? Any games you're looking forward to jumping into, or just lordsgaming.net related that you're working on?
I'm just finishing up the VR stuff. I have 3 more reviews I'm doing. My Horizon Call the Mountain review is going to get submitted in a couple hours here. I'm about to roll credits on that game. And I've just been playing VR. And then I'm going to probably play Yakuza Ishin. I cannot wait to get started on that. I played it when it first came out on the PS4 in Japan a couple of years ago. So I'm excited to see what they change and go back to Yakuza after 2 years or 3 years away, whatever it was. And you can find me on Twitter, 37Gene37.
Nice. Hell yeah. Definitely give him a follow for literally everything VR related. He is your man for that. Walt, what about you, man? What you got going on?
I got some hopefully more gaming. I want to do actual game this following week. Things are calming down. Still got more and more life throwing me some jabs. Hogwarts Legacy, be a wizard and see if the experience leans more towards the macho hype or your more average experience. I'll let y'all know next week. Other than that, man, nothing much. Watching some more. I'm still watching Peaky Blinders, so get through more of that. And I'm gonna marathon some a movie franchise. I don't know. I want to do that this week. Just movies that I haven't seen. I want to watch like 4 of them in a row. But yeah, man, that's what I'm gonna do.
Nice. Macho, what about you, man? What you got going on?
A bunch
More
of Hogwarts Legacy, yes, sir. That's gonna be absolutely. That's gonna be on the ticket for this weekend. Probably knock out more side quests and maybe see if I can finish up the story. It's gonna be a tough one to do that, fellas, because Sammy is now playing Hogwarts Legacy, and so she's gonna hog up the PS5.
Oh man,
I gave her the option, man. I got her Kirby. Actually, fun note. Well,
RIP.
I bought her Kirby's Forgotten Land for her birthday.
Oh,
And she's a Kirby fan first and foremost, so she was like ready to play this game. But she actually said, "So should I play Hogwarts first or Kirby?" I was like, "It's your birthday. You can do whatever you want." And so she tried. She went to Hogwarts, and now she's addicted. So
she's an actual fan of the actual franchise of HP, right?
oh yeah. She like me, and when something happened like in the first 10 minutes of the game, she immediately called like, "Oh, that's a reference from the movies." I was like, "Damn!" like
Damn.
even took me a little bit to kind of like register what happened, figure out like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's why this is happening." Blah blah blah. But she like picked on it instantly. But yeah, she's enjoying it a ton. She's playing it right now as we're doing this podcast. So if I'm able to get her away from the TV, maybe I can play more Hogwarts. But other than that, it's gonna be Theater Rhythm, and waiting to see on Octopath Traveler 2 whether I'm gonna actually pick it up on Steam Deck or play it on PS5. So
Gotta do it on Switch and see the most mediocre experience. I'm kidding.
exactly. No, you're not wrong. Flame from LordGaming.net, again, a friend of the show here, mentioned too that that the Switch version obviously looks and runs
like the Switch.
and like a Switch would compared to PS5 and Steam. So but yeah, we'll have more thoughts on Octopath Traveler 2 next week actually. I think, yeah, March 4th. We have actually Flame coming on the podcast to talk about that and his experience. He's been playing a ton of it, so we can actually have a good discussion on that game of if I end up not getting too far. So, but yeah, that's it on my end.
So it's funny that you bring up PC, because I was with a shawty yesterday.
And,
and,
oh no.
and we were like, she really wanted to play Portal, and I've never played it before, and she was like, wait, no, wait, what does that mean?
So now, do you have your gateway game now? You have your date game?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the twist of the story.
Uh-oh.
Is that we went to goddamn Panera Bread to play. We used the
Oh
Wi-Fi.
my god.
Panera Bread. What?
And so yeah, we were playing it on her bummy ass laptop, hearing earphones, and I was like, as I'm using the WASD keys to move the character forward, and her mouse pad that worked half the time. I was quickly reminded, oh, this is exactly no. So I was quickly reminded as I was feeling the carpal tunnel come into my wrists. That's exactly why I do not play PC gaming when I don't get into it. So that was a good reminder right there. But yeah, so aside from that, I honestly don't know what I'm playing this weekend. I want to get back into Signalis because when I got Hogwarts Legacy, my Signalis playthrough just completely came to a halt. So honestly, that game is calling me more than Hogwarts right now. So also I want to get the physical version of that.
Yes, sir. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I definitely want to get back to Signalis. Aside from that, not really too much. Really just waiting for I think RE4 might be the next big game that I want to play. I don't know indie wise what's coming out. Tachia, is that March or May? I forgot.
That's March. March 21st, I think.
Okay, so actually, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that as well.
And so let me put on my clown costume and Silk Song, right? Because it was talked about.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I actually don't know what you meant by that.
They didn't talk about Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight, it's dead. It's nowhere. It's like Elden Ring.
Hey man, it's coming. It's coming. Don't worry.
Coming? Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming.
That's what you said.
Exactly.
Anyway,
I want to go back to that date you had though. First at Panera Bread. Why did you go to Panera Bread of all places?
there were some circumstances.
Yeah.
Circumstance. What? She wanted broccoli cheddar soup, and you said Panera.
Your baguette.
I want the gabagoo. I don't want the Panera Bread.
I'll be your gabete.
Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much it for me. This. Also, go check out the little God of War. I don't even know what trailer that I
Yes, sir, the GMV.
Yeah, that I just posted onto the channel. I worked super fucking hard on that. It took me literally like 4.5 weeks to put that video together. So please check it out, give it a like. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, your transitions are on point. Really good.
Thanks, man. So yeah, that's gonna do it for the DualShock and Sense crew for episode 91. Want to thank everyone for tuning in, whether it was live or after the fact. We always appreciate it. Once again, consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video alongside all our other videos if you can. And until then, we will see you guys later. Peace out.